Brown, Chief Brown number 1.
Oh, the recording secretary. Yeah. Right. All right.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So we'll have you run through your budget and any highlights, and Patrick, if you want to jump in, and then we'll do subcommittee and questions.
So, yeah, just from a high-level overview, thank you to the committee for accepting our change of date for this. So we initially had the budget increasing at about a 1.92% increase, and then after reviewing the documents last week, we noticed an error from our spreadsheet. So apologize for that. We had a sort of a quality control and version control issue, but I'm glad we caught it when we did. But apologies for the delay, and thank you for your reconsideration. So police budget totaling $11,147,087, or a 2.42% increase over last year's budget. So full-time salaries are contractual based on settled contracts with the Burlington Police Patrol Association, the Command Officers Association, as well as the BMEA employees that are within this budget. We see overtime increasing 6% based on actual activity and those contractual adjustments, and occupancy decreasing as a result of actual gas and electricity charges, which we really took a hard look at occupancy across the actuals for all buildings this year, and in the public safety buildings we saw an opportunity to decrease based on actual and projected prices for those commodities.
Pretty amazing.
Contracted services increasing in the software and hardware maintenance area. This is really maintaining our 24/7 public safety network architecture that we have there. And you'll notice a corresponding decrease in materials and supplies from last year. There was about $50,000 for new servers last year. And in this year, we are seeing that increase in the contracted services for that network management. And then some of the smaller areas here, $2,400 increase in cruiser equipment and $15,000 increase in the annual police cruiser replacement program. And we're seeing that based on just the actual cost of those vehicles.
Okay. Subcommittee?
Subcommittee voted 2-0 in favor.
Okay. Questions from the committee? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Evening. Just a few questions. It looks like the overtime is almost all spent already. Are we going to run into a problem there this year? Or?
Did you want to?
No, the chief can take that.
Yeah, so it certainly is different from where it was a year ago. But I've been working with the budget office, and the projections are we should get through the rest of the year without having to come back and ask for more money. And what's saving us right now is we are out of balance a little bit with our full-time employees. Right now, we're at 62 out of the 68, so those salary markers are able to supplement what we otherwise would have spent in the overtime.
Okay.
But we're looking to hopefully slide in with a nickel in our pocket by June 30th.
All right, fair enough. And with the body cameras, do all patrol officers have body cameras at this
Yes.
point? They do. Okay, good. And you mentioned that the 911 costs have gone up due to the move. I'm just wondering, was that factored into the cost of the new police station? I'm just wondering, should it be in that budget as opposed to your operating budget, or?
So that cost, quite frankly, was an unexpected cost. We didn't know about this until 911 was engaged to move the equipment for us. And my understanding from speaking to the state 911 is when we go back to our original site, those costs will not carry. But because they had to move it, and it wasn't their move, we had to incur those costs and pay that for the 2 years that we're at the temp site.
Okay, but we don't have to pay it in reverse, you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Just going forward for the 2 years.
All right, that's something. All right, thank you.
Any questions? Rick?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, maybe this is more of a question for Patrick. Patrick, it looks like, unless I'm reading this wrong, on the revised schedule, it looks like it's missing unscheduled overtime.
Yes, that is in the latest version that we sent out. Part of the issue that we notified was some hidden cells that were not missing from the formula. So that was the version that we sent you tonight. That was included, the amount was captured in the total.
Right, I noticed that the amount was still in the total, but that line item was missing.
Yes, in the latest version we sent out that Doug forwarded today,
Oh, okay.
that unscheduled overtime is there. We did notice that there was a row in a few sheets that was hidden but still calculated within the total. So,
Okay.
yep.
Thanks. And then another question related to vacation buyback. So is that applicable to like retirements and resignations and terminations where the officers have accrued vacation and then they get that when they leave? Is that what that is?
That's a piece of it, right? And then
Yep.
there's probably annual vacation buyback as a
As a
part of
collective
the-
bargain,
Yeah.
correct.
So there's a certain amount of vacation time that certain employees may be eligible to sell back to the town on an annual basis to reduce our actual liability of their vacation time. And so they can sort of cash in a certain amount of their vacation time based on eligibility in that contract.
Okay, thanks.
David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, you said in the beginning, but I was looking for my notes. What staffing levels are you at now? And I know you just had a few cadets that just joined.
Right, so we're authorized for 68, and right now we're at 62. I did offer a conditional offer to a brand-new officer today. He's not considered hired yet until after appointment, but he's going through the background and the medical. So we're hoping to have him on board by early May, which will bring us up to 63 out of the 68. And we're also actively recruiting as well. We have an exam set for May 15th, and we're also advertising for laterals. So we're hoping to get the staffing up by summertime.
Got it. How are you finding the candidate pools?
The candidates that are coming through are very good, but the number of candidates has diminished substantially since 2020.
Okay. Again, been on the committee a long time, and I forget, the overtime levels, although they're increasing the 6%, they're still significantly under where they were a few years back. And I don't know if that was lower staffing levels that you needed additional overtime. You were spending up to $750,000 in OT, and now you're in the 600s. So I don't know if that was a factor of you getting your overtime level down by getting your staffing levels up.
Yeah, there's always that balance, right? Trying to maintain sufficient staff, but where we benefit is we also get the benefit of grants. So some of our overtime, not a lot of it, but some of it can come back through like state 911 grants for in-service training and stuff like that. So we're able to supplement it there as well.
Got it. And then just the final one, gasoline, we obviously know what's transpired before this budget was, you level funded there. Again, it seems like from what you've spent to date, you're kind of on track for that, but you're okay still with the gasoline levels?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Deb?
Thank you. I also have a question about overtime.
Sure.
Actually, on the overtime detail page, there's a couple lines. One of the biggest ones down here, it's just other, it's almost 100 grand.
Yep.
What's in there, or what's that intended to cover?
So other overtime that you're seeing as the 95,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other overtime is, you got sick, injury, and then shift replacements, or if we had to call in for extra coverage and stuff like that. So as a great example right now, we have the ICE protests that are going on that started every Wednesday, and now they're basically Wednesday through Saturday. So we have to man those shifts for the public safety issue. So it's kind of like that umbrella where we're not pigeonhole it into one of these things specifically, but we have a need for the public safety. So that's where you're seeing it in abundance right now. You're welcome.
Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 3 quick questions, mostly curiosity. What is the recovery coach?
The recovery coach, what she handles, or the position is open right now, but that position handles is basically drug and alcohol treatment and services. So if we come into somebody who's on hard times and has one of those illnesses, we'll assign them over to the recovery coach, and then they will walk them through, right through to recovery.
And is this someone in the public or in the force?
So
It
it's,
could be either one, I suppose, but
well, it's not a police officer, it's a civilian
not in
person
the public, okay.
that's trained in that discipline.
All right.
But right now, we have the mental health clinician kind of doing those dual roles.
Yeah, and do you do see the need for that, the demand?
Unfortunately, yes, and it's increases year to year.
Okay. Motorcycles, you lease them.
Yes.
How many, what do we use them for, and why do we buy them?
So we have one motorcycle right now. We do lease it. And the reason we went forward with the lease was it was a new program that I wanted to try and bring back. There was some interest from patrol. So we wanted to make sure that it was going to work,
Try it
meet
out.
our needs.
Yeah.
And it has. And now as budget's getting a little tighter, it makes more sense to just continue to lease it with the option to buy at the end of this year. But what it's used for is primarily traffic enforcement, but also community engagement. You'll see it down at the beer garden. You'll see it up at the Little League Parade. It'll lead funerals.
Okay.
It's up wherever the kids are a lot of times. It's
So I don't have it in front of me. I think it was a $6,000 lease,
6,500.
and the bike's probably worth like 20 grand?
I think they're more, and with everything on it, it's probably about 28,000, I believe.
But you're thinking of not necessarily trying to buy one?
Well, because we wanted to see how the program was going to work.
But it looks good.
But it looks good, so I would like to buy it, but I didn't think it was prudent to bring in another big ticket item at
You
this
didn't
point.
offer John a free ride or anything? Okay, all right, I was curious. And the other thing is, it's a small charge, but under communications or something, there's an internet charge of like $10,000? No, $2,000. It's under expenses, occupancy, internet. What in the world are we paying internet charges for?
Just on occupancy?
Yeah. Covers costs of utilities for building operation, internet,
They
$22,000.
have their own connection, if I recall. expenses.
All right, it's not a biggie. It's a
Oh, that's just a temporary station, bringing in the internet.
Oh,
Temporary,
yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
So that one, when we went over for the new circuits for 911, where we had to bring that expense in, we also had to bring in the internet for the temporary site. So they ran new cable and internet for like the TVs and stuff like that.
So do you have a contract for internet service separately for wherever that is?
We do have a contract for the circuits that came in for 911. A circuit with, contract with Verizon and also one with Astound, which used to be RCN.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Deb?
Sorry, I forgot, I have one other question.
Sure.
On the special accounts page,
Yep.
there's like 40 grand for medical expenses for injured officers,
Yes.
not covered by our workers' comp, the town workers' comp?
No, so in Massachusetts, public safety officers are not, the expenses related to that is not covered by workers' comp, so we have to not only pay for the actual wages of those employees when they're out, not through workers' comp, but any expenses related to their medical care and costs, so. That's just, you see the same thing in fire. It's police officers and firefighters in Massachusetts fall under a different statute from workers' comp.
Got it.
Yeah, Rick?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Question on the software hardware maintenance increased by about $50,000. I know in the write-up it said increase for software hardware maintenance to maintain 24/7 public safety network architecture. Can you elaborate a little on that?
Yeah, so the servers that were originally brought in for our records management system. So now those are over on the town refresh side of it. But what we've found over the years is with our department specifically, we need 24/7 help on our IT needs. So what happens is I can contract out with a private contractor called Delphi, and they will come in and maintain our infrastructure in ways that the town MIS, not that they can't, but they don't. So in other words, if we have an issue at 2 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, this company can come in and handle this. So what we're seeing is the more and more technology that comes into the department, we need more than just Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 coverage. So by building that into that software and hardware maintenance, we're able to maintain that infrastructure within the department.
And that's subscription-based?
Yes.
Thanks. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and also just that 50,000 that came over also did decrease out of materials and supplies. So it just moved from one bucket to the other.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Roger?
There's a group for NEMLIC and PRN that went up from 6,500 to 10,000. Can you
Yes.
tell a little bit more about what the increase is there and what they're used for?
Sure. So the NEMLEC, as you're seeing it, really, it's titled NEMLEC, BAPERN, and MPAC, and those are basically dues for these organizations. So the NEMLEC dues went up by, or will go up by $1,000, but what really hit us this year was BAPERN, which is the Boston Area Police Emergency Radio Network. So that allows us to go out over our radios to basically all of the eastern part of the state. So if you had emergency situations, the channels are interoperable. So those dues went from a fixed rate to a per capita rate based on your population. So those dues spiked quite a bit. And then we also have other dues that have gone up with like the Middlesex Chiefs and the Massachusetts Chiefs. So basically, we just got hit with those dues increases and they're in the NEMLEC line.
All right. And what's involved in the radio programming that's mentioned in that line item? Or is that just...
Yeah, so the radio programming, so if we have officers that are, let's say, going down on mutual aid to like the Boston Marathon, or we've had NEMLEC go out to Boston after parades and big events like that, their radios have to be channeled or programmed with the channel for that specific department. So that's a cost for that, for the Allcom to come out and program the radio.
Oh, okay. So there's a company or an agency that is responsible for the radio programming?
Yes.
Or-
Yes.
All right. All right. I think everybody else covered the rest of my things. Thank you.
Cheyenne, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah. Going back to the contract services chief, the 60,500 for software and hardware maintenance, you said that was for an increase in 20, like you said, it was at 20% maintenance of the system that MIS can't handle. Do you foresee that getting larger in the next couple of years, or do you think MIS can take on that?
Well, I mean, I think with everything else, with the contracts for the records management system as well as the body-worn cameras, I think you are going to see an increase in all these costs as we go. For instance, we just hit year 4 on the body-worn camera, and we saw a big spike in the annual support and maintenance. So yes, I would see that it's going to continue to increase.
Pretty large increase, 223,000 to $280,000. Basically, a quarter of that budget. Is it going to increase by that much, or is there any way to mitigate it?
Yeah, I don't know if we anticipated increasing by that much every year. I think the increase too this year is reflective of the actual services required to maintain the system. I think that the chief did a good job sort of getting by on what was previously available, but I think that, the alternative that we'd be looking to it potentially, many departments this size have 2 to 3 people managing, IT people managing public safety network architecture within the department, so embedded right into the department. So I think this is a prudent and more of a saving approach to go, but I don't think that we anticipate seeing those types of contracted services on an annual basis. I don't think that we would support that either. I think that we would have to try to be a little bit more creative if we're going to see that level of increases. So I think that we'll work hard to make sure that those expectations are managed around that. So short answer is no, I don't think that we'll see that, Cheyenne, moving forward.
Deb?
Patrick, and Chief.
And, sorry to finish that off. My last question, though, is there any way to split that, instead of lumping software and hardware maintenance to a software budget and a hardware budget? So we know what we're paying for subscriptions for maintaining the services versus buying new equipment.
Yeah, I think we can look into that. I think that's possible, yeah.
Deb?
Now, just to follow up, so is it Delphi?
Yes.
So are they doing all of the IT maintenance or just the weekend portion? Town IT does Monday through Friday?
So town IT will still be involved in basically everything that we're bringing in the building from like a software perspective. But day-to-day issues are usually handled by Delphi now because they're there, but it's in conjunction with town MIS. So like, for instance, when the new phone system comes over to the police department, they'll work together. On everything related to the new station and the temporary station, they're working together. So we kind of get that dual role from both sides, but we get the 24/7 coverage, which is what we need.
Steve? Online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is not directly related to the operational budget, but we've spent some money in the past couple of years to operationalize the new radio network across the town. And I'm wondering if you could just give an update as to how that is working and if that's really implemented at this point and how's it working out?
Yeah, so from the police perspective, it's worked out very well. All the officers, all of us have our new portable radios. The new radio system has been put into place. The new consoles are working very well. The interoperability with fire is now online. The only part I'm not sure about is whether or not Phase 3 with the DPW radios has been completed. But you know, they've delivered what they promised from the police perspective in year 1 and 2.
That sounds good. And the coverage is great across town.
Yes, the coverage is much better.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Move to approve? Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve $11,147,087 for the police budget. Cheyenne? Cheyenne, you're muted for a vote. We'll come back. Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Rob Neufeld?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
David Tate?
Yes.
And Cheyenne, are you there?
Don't forget Paul.
Oh, Paul, I'm sorry.
Quite all right. Yes.
I'm
She
sorry,
showed up
Paul.
late, it's okay.
No.
No.
I actually voted yes for you.
Oh.
I said I voted yes. I'll be honest.
That's a new one. That's better than remote.
You voted on my page, yeah.
That was on time. You'll
All right, well, Cheyenne must have stepped away. Okay. We'll move on. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Good job.
Nope. I'm sorry, the vote is 14-0-0.
There he is.
Cheyenne, are you back?
Sorry,
No, that's okay. You got to vote on the police budget?
yes.
15-0-0. Thank you. Fire.
Fire.
Where? The other chief. How you doing? Good. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Chief Brown. Chief Brown's first time before Ways and Means. So, fire budget, $10,497,535, or a 1.69% increase, $174,060 over last year. So in full-time salaries, with the exception of the BMEA dispatchers and the administrative staff within the fire department, the wage changes you see here are only reflective of step increases, so we're still in negotiations with the Burlington Firefighters Association of a successor agreement. So we have allocated a general wage increase in the negotiated settlements line. Some of the highlights, we see an overtime increase of 1.26%, reflective of wage changes, projected wage changes in actual activity. Again, I mentioned earlier that we've able to target some decreases in occupancy in the public safety buildings. Bless you. Contracted services are increasing 2.2% for increases in radio maintenance, dorm maintenance, fire station maintenance, and equipment repair, and a nearly $9,000 increase for ambulance supplies and apparatus repair, as well as some expense increases in gas, oil, tires, and protective clothing. So that overall budget for contracted for the maintenance budget is offset by ambulance revenue. So we have a transfer in from the receipts reserved ALS fund there. A small increase for professional development within the MELT line, and then looking at capital outlay. So what the department tries to do on an annual basis is replace about 20% of the force's gear. So this is your structural firefighting equipment. This is also your equipment that, that is worn when you're not necessarily fighting fires, but when you're serving as a firefighter, and personal protective equipment, that type of stuff. So I think that approach is a really sound approach for gear replacement. It allows a schedule to move forward. And again, the target there, based on this budget, is about 20%. And then finally, within the special accounts, about a 2.5% increase. For some of the account spending areas that are really specific to the department, fire prevention, some of our contractual and legal obligations related to medical costs, and community programming, and fire prevention. If I already said fire prevention, my apologies. But and I know the chief is here if there's any questions specifically.
Subcommittee,
Subcommittee voted 2-0.
questions?
I'll start.
All right, Rick?
Thanks. A couple questions. The 111F payments, I understand that's paid leave for injuries, is that right? 111F?
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's the. Yep.
So, looking for 74,000, only spent 19,000 to date. In prior years, spent well under 74,000. Just curious as to why you're expecting more higher costs associated with that.
Sure. I think this is one of those areas that, and the chief may be able to expand on this, but certainly my experience has been, this is almost like snow and ice to me, that decreasing it is often a little unwise based on we have no real way of predicting what injuries or illnesses can occur in the line of duty. So I think that, whether it's a workplace hazard, whether it's an occupational cancer situation, these are all expenses that are really unpredictable, and as much training and safety that we do invest in and that we pay a premium, or we put a premium on, this is one of those areas that we just don't know exactly what is going to happen in the Corps. So I think that it's one of those budgets that we don't want to spend money from, because we don't want to have injured or ill firefighters, but we have seen some activity in the past, not quite as much as this budget line is asking for, but sort of our take on it is reducing liability if there is injuries or illnesses in the line of duty.
Okay. And then sort of the same question with the wellness program. 7 months in year-to-date of this year, spent $250. You got 14,500 in for FY '27 and only spent around 4,000 or 5,000 in prior years. Is that a similar?
The wellness program actually is almost like a reimbursable contractual obligation related to firefighter fitness and costs incurred that they receive sort of outside of work. So similar to almost like a gym reimbursement that your health insurance might offer if firefighters, as part of the contract, you spend funds or have a health-based subscription program, they're allowed to seek reimbursement for that, and we pay that typically later on in the year as those sort of receipts come in.
So why are you anticipating a significant increase from year-to-date and also from prior years in that account?
I think it's based on potential activity that could occur in that account, and we don't know every year how much that contractual opportunity is going to be taken advantage of. So I think that's sort of almost the maximum liability that we predict in that account. If you want to say more
And I'm
about that.
pretty sure our admin sends that out yearly before the end of the, to anyone who has it, has to submit it to her, so she's not doing them all year long.
Okay,
So that will probably be spent in a good lump sum.
Later on in the fiscal year.
behind
Yes.
recording the cost. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. What's the amount on that per firefighter? Like, what do they get reimbursed? How
I
many
think
of
it's
them?
$250.
And how many participate? And like, I think it's a great program. I think it's important.
It actually started when I got hired 29 years ago. They were going to, we were all supposed to be held to a physical and whatnot, and this was put in there as a reimbursement to stay in shape. So some of the guys actually don't put in for it. We have a nice gym down the other station, so they have to show a receipt.
Yeah.
And if they're not putting in for it,
Sure.
money's not there. But
Sure.
so that does increase every year. A new guy gets on. That's why it's going up.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it's about 20% of the force right now.
All right. John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Evening. Just thinking about the ALS versus BLS thing that we instituted a while back. So it looks like there's about $360K that's being used as offsets in that program. And so the overall question is going to be, does that actually cover the incremental cost of ALS? The quick math of things I found was if all 44 firefighters were ALS, which I know they aren't right now, that would add up to $187K, and the 3 cardiac monitors per year is about $26K. So I can sort of quickly get to $210K up to $360, and so the question I'm wondering is $150K enough to cover all the other cost of ALS versus BLS? You know, are we breaking even on it is the question ultimately.
Yeah, and I think that this is an interesting balance of how much we want to use those funds on a move-forward basis to offset operating budgets versus how much we want to dedicate on a, semi-annual for equipment purchase and apparatus purchase. So I think that's something we're looking at too, as far as, what are the trends in these sort of receipts when it comes to ALS and how best to use those. And really, is it increasing the operating and having less for apparatus, or are we at a point where we can do both? I think that we're sort of in that inflection point for studying how much more as we continue to see increased utilization across sort of both ambulances.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of the original goal, which was the intent was moving to ALS wouldn't cost us any more in net. And if it is, then we should, be rethinking, or at least reconsider, is that still the right choice for us? And it may be, but just want to make sure we don't lose sight of where we started here. I'm just curious on the Medical Reserve Corps training, there's 5,500 there. The Board of Health had 1,000 for that. And am I correct in understanding that the Medical Reserve Corps is under the Board of Health's direction?
Yes.
Okay, and then, so I guess the question is, are they then coordinating with the fire department for the training that they would like the MRC to have? Or, I just want to make sure that, we don't have two managers for the same group, so to speak.
Emergency management.
Is that,
You're talking about the EMS budget or the fire budget? Are you talking about in the fire department budget or the EMS budget?
emergency management, or where is the?
Oh, it may be an EMS if I accidentally put in the wrong one, sorry. Didn't mean to conflate them. Hold that question till the next one.
We'll get there.
And the final question was, I think I ask this every year because I'm puzzled, but why do we need a public relations budget for the fire department in particular? I mean, like, the police don't have it, no other department has it. We have a communications director now. Why do we need this budget?
Sure. Yeah, I think that what we have in that is a subscription base for what I would refer to as certain large-scale events. So we had one today. There was a situation where there was a gas emergency at the Burlington Mall, and we had to evacuate it. And as that happens, we see media staging and large-scale media when we see 2-alarm, 3-alarm fires, and we need sort of specialized media around that, specialized media management around that. I think that, the relatively low cost for sort of what happens at that 24/7 emergency situation, that is when we see extreme value in that. And I think that this is sort of the same model that most public safety departments utilize for that purpose, the media staging, the sort of high level or higher level than some of the sort of media management and press relations that we're not necessarily doing or equipped to do out of town hall, even if, even with a communications officer, that's not really like a press secretary position where when we see situations like we saw today where there are large-scale emergencies and we need someone to coordinate media response from that level, that's what that service is for.
So it is sort of an on-call public relations department, as it were.
Yeah,
So-
the PD uses the same
Yeah.
company.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may not be understanding this very well. It's about salaries and overtime and that sort of thing. So if we go to the top level on salaries, the full-time is about $8 million, and that's pre-contract settlements, right? And
2 years,
what's that?
2 years. So it'll be this current year and next year, neither one of those factored in.
Okay, I'm trying to do quick math in my head. So relative to the overall salary budget of $9 million minus whatever the contract change is going to be, we've still got about $1.5 million in overtime. And one of the things, and it's up 1.26%, one of the things we've been trying to do, I think, is to try to get a better handle on the amount of the overtime. It doesn't seem to be coming down, though.
Well, I'll say that 1.4 million is actually 1.7 million because we're offsetting it by 300,000 from the ALS.
Okay, so...
And we've spent over 2 million, a couple of years ago.
All right, so...
It has definitely come down, not to the
All right.
level
So I'm trying to understand this, to be truthful with you. So to be fair, so if we jump to the programmed in overtime page, there's the ALS transfer offset of $300K, which is what John was talking about, right? But that doesn't make the overtime any less. It just means you're funding it differently.
Right.
So I'm not sure there's anything better to do about this from a management point of view, but sickness, vacation and sickness amount to over $1 million, which is a big percentage of your whole salary budget. Is that typical?
So our overtime issue is a contractual structural issue. Because of the way the contract is written, the shifts have 15 men on each shift.
15?
15. And at 13, then they have a minimum of 13. So if you
Okay.
have someone hurt, if you have a vacancy, every single call out, for whether it's a sick or vacation.
You need to get someone on,
whatever,
yeah.
it's costing an overtime. So every shift we have overtime. So
All right.
when we have a lot of vacancies, like we do now, or when we have out injured, a few years ago was we had the double whammy where we had long-term injuries plus a bunch of vacancies. That's when the overtime
So
had really ballooned.
we're doing better, but the nub of it is the vacancies are really hurting us, because I'm assuming the cost per hour for the overtime versus filling the vacancy has a pretty good differential.
So injuries hurt worse than, we'll play on words, injuries hurt us worse budget-wise, more than a vacancy, because a vacancy is going to cause an overtime, but we're also not paying someone. So there's going to be some unused salary to help offset that.
Because it's an open
When it's an
position.
injury or
It's a double count.
vacation, or they're still getting paid, and there's an overtime payment.
All right, so the vacation alone is $600,000, right? Yeah, $616,000 for vacation coverage. So I'm just wondering, and that's done with overtime.
Yeah, this is a perennial problem, Frank. I'm sure you remember this from years past.
Yeah, but we're trying to make it better.
The understaffing.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it every year. The silver bullet is to increase demand. You know, if we were to say,
And again, we just can't get the people? Is that the problem?
well, we can't get the people at the number of men we have now. But if we were to add 2 more to each shift and not change the minimum, now you got to have 2 more people out before we're filling overtime. It would definitely help. It's not going to make overtime totally go away.
I'm not, it can never go away, yeah. But I mean, it seems like there's value in getting the Manning high, a lot of value. And is the problem we just can't get the people?
Vacancies is an issue amongst all departments now, especially the ones that have gone to ALS. We're all dipping into the same pool where, so, like for instance, a new test just came out. They're going to release those scores. I have a requisition in for that for civil service. On the day they come out, these kids will probably get a requisition from Burlington, Watertown, Winchester, Reading, and there's a Belmont. Usually, it's us trying to pick off the same pool of paramedics. We have picked up some good transfers, and it's just a matter of some of these kids. It could be down to, can Belmont start me 5 months before Burlington because they have an academy spot? It's just been a little hard until we get to that saturation point, where all the towns get to that. We're just picking off the same pool of candidates at this time.
And it's a limited pool because you have to already not only want it to be a firefighter, but also been trained as a paramedic in order to show up on our list.
Right. Okay, well, it's expensive. It'd be nice if we could,
I think it's a hidden cost of the ALS that we should really consider. Because that's an additional, if we weren't ALS, we would have an easier time hiring firefighters. We would then have a better staffing setup. And so that's a additional cost of being ALS, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think a few years ago, we talked about holding the line on that transfer at 360 for this is what we talked about last year.
Right.
Then making the decision, do we tap some of that money that we have and program some of the expected revenue each year to pay for us to add more firefighters?
but I'm assuming the ALS receipts aren't big enough that you can move more money.
Yeah, the ALS receipts cover not only the 360, but they also cover a portion of saving for a firefighter, a fire engine.
Ambulance.
So
All right.
so far, we have good data that show that
Okay.
the receipts are there.
Well, you're definitely working on it. You're headed in the right direction. It just seems it's very aggravating that, you've got the job, you've got the deed, You want the people.
At some point, we're going to say, hey, we want to add 4 this year and 4 the next year. And then 5 years later, we're still going to be talking about, we haven't got all 8 guys yet. But
All right.
Mike?
I just want to ask, Chief, we talked a little bit at our budget review meeting, you being new in the chief position, kind of sort of what your goals are for the department going forward?
Yeah, so one of them would be, continue on with the ALS, where we're running 2 ambulances 24/7. We're pretty much there. We spoke about vacancies at the time, getting a new assistant chief, which, him and I went to high school together. We're aware of the issue here. We're going to try to get an outreach program with the high school. It's a great job for kids that don't want to go to college or can't go to college, but it's also a tough course. So it's to get kids interested and get out there, show them what we do, and they're pretty much guaranteed a great job after a year and a half schooling, if they're willing and, able to do it. So it's definitely something we're looking into getting into, get into high school for that stuff. Trying to get a little more active on social media. I'm not a Facebook guy myself, but I know some of the people are, so I'm trying to do that with the new communications director. And there's also, I'll talk to Mr. Denizio about it later, but there's, civil service does offer a couple different programs that, would have to discuss, but there are maybe some different ways that can sort of open it up a little bit more to help us get some hiring done. There's some sort of hybrid lists, they call them, and different ways where they don't even have to take the civil service test as long as the town is committing to have them trained and on the job within a year. Caveat to that would be whatever half we take, we have to take half the regular way too. So there's definitely some intricacies to it, but it's something I'm willing to look into. And there's been some Burlington kids. 3 of them started as dispatchers with us, put themselves through school. That wasn't on the town. And they're on the job with us now. We're currently training a kid, a retiree son that has also put himself through school. So the word is getting out there. We're trying to keep the kids in Burlington and train them and have them do the ride-alongs with us in hopes that they stay and bring 2 friends.
Check right.
any of these creative things that we've been thinking about for years, we really couldn't do until we got to a certain amount of medics, which was 28 medics, which we've exceeded that. But because we've had medics for a long time and because our folks are outstanding, some of those medics are now lieutenants. So lieutenants don't usually drive the ambulance. They've got another job to do. So once we get to a point where we have a solid amount of medics on each shift, maybe there'll be some more opportunity for us to do some of those creative things, petition certain hires and then have them do their medic stuff with us. We have to put situations in where it would be a clawback if they left us after we trained them, things like that. But there is that opportunity very soon for us to be able to think about some of those other creative options on how we can fill vacancies, still provide the outstanding service we are.
Questions? Cheyenne? Cheyenne, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that's better if you lean into the microphone.
Sorry, I need to be more clear because I'm feeling good. I have several questions. As far as, recruiting, people from within the high school and tech, is there something that would be beneficial to you that we could institute as a program? That we need to, make a, for lack of a better word, like a career pathway for these students who want to go into this field, don't want to go to college, but want to be medics, technicians, firefighters, that kind of thing. That's my first question. My second question, let's go with the first one.
Career pathways.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what we just spoke to. I think it'd be hard to, I think one of the things John was alluding to is maybe when we do get to our number that I think maybe hiring as firefighters and then putting them to school, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Once they get on? It'd be quite a commitment.
I'm saying like from the school level, train them in that direction. And then, once they have reached a suitable proficiency, then to introduce them into the as a firefighter or as a medic or as a paramedic or whatever they have trained for up to that point.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm looking to reduce early. If we're hiring 4 people and, letting go 3 people, then we don't really have much of that game.
Right. Yeah, we can give them a taste of what they're going to do. We can't train them for this paramedic course. You have to be an EMT first, which I think now that's 6 months, and then ride along time, and then the medic course is over a year. I think it's 6 or 7 months classroom. You have to do so many hours in an actual hospital setting, and then so many hours ride along, as far as riding along in conjunction with getting certain skills. So you have to ride along and do so many cardiac workups, so many IVs and whatnot. So it's not something that we could go out and teach or certify anyone in.
Well, it's something I want to rush through. I mean, it's something I would like to get students who are interested in the field trained in that direction, or at least pointed in that direction. Is there some way we can do that?
I think
It'll happen organically with the outreach you're talking about. I mean, it just, like you said, the training is just so specialized that they're not going to get that, but we can certainly, get a taste of it and get, through the outreach that you're planning, they'll at least get in touch with more kids and get an idea of how many kids are even thinking about it, and hopefully that number continues to grow.
Let's try to rein it back in a little to the budget, though. I appreciate that, Cheyenne, and maybe just send some ideas along.
Well, and I guess my second question, as far as assisted living facilities go, what are your thoughts on that? I need to kind of get like a feel of that. I just am curious.
Yes.
What are your responses to the assisted living facilities in town? Have they increased or decreased since the introduction of?
We can't understand you, Cheyenne. We're not understanding the meat of your question.
Sorry?
It's mumbly and kind of, your sound quality's not
He's
good.
asking, are the assisted living facilities driving more costs?
Lift and assist.
Were you asking about the assisted living facilities, and do they drive more calls?
Assisted living facilities, what are your thoughts going forward? Have there been more calls since facilities have lowered their expectations of what their employees will do versus what they were called on for?
So I think this has to do with last year there was a lot of phone calls being happened that for residents that had fallen, and that those employees were refusing to transport or help with them, and using our own staff to help with that. Yeah. I think that's what he was referring to.
We are tracking that. We're tracking the actual lift assist we do. No one's been charged or anything. I believe that still has to be finalized with the Attorney General. But the assisted livings keep us busy, that's for sure. But I haven't seen an increase or decrease. They've been steadily increasing. When I got on, there was none, and now there's 3, and they keep us busy.
Well, really, what I'm just trying to get a handle of is how many calls are being made. Are they necessary for, two ambulance drivers, 1 paramedic, firefighters, everyone going out, 5 people, 5 personnel going out, for something like a lift and assist?
Yeah, it's we get asked that question a lot. I'm sure there's 60 guys over there that could tell you about a horror story that we've gone to for something that was going to be a lift assist and turned out to be cardiac arrest. So I would say, other than these small little lift assists that we've been tracking, every call there does require the 5 guys. There's a ton of equipment. A lot of these people are immobile or dead weight, which, you know, if they can't help you get up at all, sometimes it takes 3 or 4 guys to lift them. So, yeah, all those calls do require all the resources that we send. If it does turn out to just be a quick lift assist of someone that needs help back, we are tracking them. We haven't started charging or anything, but yeah, so they do have a lot of calls, but I would say most of them are definitely necessary.
Okay, all right, fair enough, thank you.
Other questions?
Motion to approve?
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve $10,497,535 for the fire department budget. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Rob Newfeld?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rasso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
David Tate?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 15-0-0. Move on to emergency management.
Moving to emergency management, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, you know, you'll see in this budget that not a lot of activity over the last several years or this year. We have had some activity since this has been, since the January 22nd, about $2,000 for some hazard mitigation planning that has been coordinated from the fire department with a number of departments in town. But really what this budget is intended to do, and will be the intention for it moving forward, is funding our emergency response planning and management program. So I know that from the town administrator's perspective and the fire chief's perspective and sort of the new administration in the fire department is we're planning on a whole lot more in the emergency preparation and planning and management function being far more integrated across the town. So, you know, I think that those of us that have been in this business for some time and seen some pretty serious emergencies and seen the premium that can be developed from a program like this, we're looking at things like, you know, tabletop exercises, planning programs, emergency management working group type style, where we are regularly getting together with stakeholders, planning for these situations, understanding what department is doing what job in an emergency. Because very quickly, depending on the emergency that can happen, these things can go from a police and fire emergency to a police, fire, board of health, town administrator's office, to all the way to business outreach, to every aspect of government can end up getting involved depending on the situation. So I know with the chief's plan and the chief's new administration, this is going to be an area that we're going to be spending a lot of time, energy, resources over the next several years on. So, you know, I think that we're anticipating some additional some spending in these accounts in these areas in order to bring us up to a place where we are prepared as an organization. And I think that this will be a big focus of, you know, the chief's office over the next year.
I just want to add one thing. We talk about it every year, and someone will say, why you have to have it separate? Why don't you just keep it in the fire budget? And by having it separate, having it in some department, having funding source towards it, we can use this as an in-kind. If we get a public safety grant, we can use this as our in-kind budget also. And this can line us up for different types of firefighter grants because we have a separate budget in place and account for it separately. So that's why we don't keep it in the fire department budget. I think we get that coordinated.
Subcommittee?
2-0.
Questions? John?
Thank you. Sorry.
How did I know?
Sorry for my earlier premature question. Yeah, I just want to make sure, who's actually coordinating the training of the MRC, since it seems to be done in two different places here?
Yeah, so the interesting part about it is it's sort of a grant program funded out of the Board of Health, but when we do training with the Reserve Corps, here's where that importance of emergency management coordination happens, so that when we do those trainings, it is coordinated through the emergency management director, who currently the assistant fire chief, under the leadership of the fire chief. So sort of the training and the scope of that training and the actual emergency preparedness and response is done from the emergency management perspective, while that sort of grant program for the MRC and how we activate the MRC is generally done through the health department, because that's sort of most of the people that are involved in the MRC are health-based or clinician-based people, nurses, people that do vaccinations, people who can do first aid, people who are trained to be at a shelter overnight if we have a prolonged power outage. So usually it's activated in coordination with the fire chief's office through the health department.
And they're going to have some annual trainings that MRC is going to do through the Board of Health too, flu clinic training, things like that they're going to run through the Board of Health, through their funds also. So this would be more of a specific.
So yeah, I'll just, where rubber hits the road, okay, an emergency happens, who actually calls up the MRC?
The emergency management, the assistant fire chief and chief would stand up an operations center. The Board of Health would be who connects with their MRC.
Okay, but so the point is the deputy chief would be the one coordinating it, and they would call up the Board of Health, who would call up the MRC?
Yeah, so the Board of Health would be in on an emergency, well, depending on what type of emergency, but if it was going to need any sort of response that the Board of Health would handle.
That's great, as long as Board of Health has the same answer.
Well, and that's exactly why we're spending so much, we want to spend so much time training and the resources so that these things are automatic.
Yep, sounds good.
Communications, Board of Health, DPW, everybody knows what to do and where to be.
Hey, you're thinking about the right thing. Thank you.
Other questions? Motion?
Move to approve?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for $13,600 for the emergency management public safety budget. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
John Nyler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy? Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Rob Neufeld?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Grasso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
David Tate?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That's 15-0-0. So now we're going to move on to warrant article request from fire. Article 3.5, fire command vehicle.
Yes, so I'll kind of quickly hand it over to the chief here. This is a part of our command and support vehicle replacement program, and this year we're looking to replace one of the existing command vehicles. That's a frontline vehicle, Ford Explorer, that the chief can talk a little bit about more, but we're having some body issues with it, some body rot, and this is a frontline vehicle, so we're looking to replace that with a Tahoe, which is sort of the natural replacement for the command cars we're seeing. So it's about 11 years old, and while the mileage is relatively low, we are seeing that for a frontline piece of equipment, posing kind of a risk to our response. So what this funds is the vehicle, the upfitting of the vehicle, radio, and then based on when the quote was developed to meet all these deadlines, a contingency in case there are price increases in any of the categories.
Okay. And this is free cash.
Correct.
Subcommittee.
So Chris and I took a look at this. We saw pictures of it before in our previous meeting, but we asked the chief to bring it by for a follow-up meeting, and we went out and looked at the car. It looks fine from the outside, the body itself, but it's the underside that the mechanic said is potentially dangerous. So we both agreed, so 2-0 the warrant.
Questions? Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So how many commuter cars are there right now?
We have, I think we have 6. Yeah, so the commit, 2 of them, one of them will be mine and the assistant chief. We'll call those responsible. We're on duty 24/7. Then we have 3 others that are take-home cars that will respond if they have to. 2 of them are fire prevention, the other one's our EMS officer. And then there's the training captain has one. So that, and then we have the other command car is the one that goes on the calls, C3.
Okay. And then another question, Patrick, this is probably more for you. The total amount on the warrant is, I think, 94,000. Or when I go into the quotes in the backup, I'm coming up with 80,863. You add 10%, that's 88,949. So I'm just curious as to why you're looking for a contingency greater than 10% on that.
So we have a 15% contingency here and for fire vehicles, and it's a good question of having a consistent, I've seen 10, I've seen 15. We need to, I think we have some refinement and some precision to do related to that. But when we get about 93,000 when we look at 15% contingency on the vehicle, the outfitting, and the radio, brings us to 93,000.
And what was the date of, so the date of these quotes is January? So you expect,
Yeah, January 17th.
so you expect prices to go up that much?
Hopefully not, but the worst thing for us would to be not have enough, or to have to risk something in the upfitting, or to come back to town meeting would be really the worst. But so I do think that we have some work to do as far as across the board developing more of a standard on sort of what that contingency ought to be, and whether or not it's going to go up and down based on what's going on in the world. But I think also improving some of the areas that we have on these sheets to sort of break that down a little bit more. So, yeah, I'm hoping that this is an area where we don't spend the entire amount and ultimately can return those funds. But we've looked at a 15% contingency based on the recommendation from fleet maintenance.
But just as a point of information, this is out of free cash, right?
Right.
Correct.
So it's not even a matter of returning it to free cash. It just doesn't get spent. There's no borrowing, there's nothing. You just don't write the check.
But it
Free
is
ca-
encumbered. You can't spend it for something else.
It's only encumbered until this article is purchased. It immediately returns, as far as I know.
And once the purchase was finalized, everything was.
Yeah, there's no,
balance left.
the encumbrance goes away.
But I think
Back at the end of
to
that.
Roger's point, spending any balance would require an appropriation, if that's what you're...
Right, but sorry.
It would be different if we didn't have enough free cash.
Right, but even if it goes back to free cash, until free cash is certified in October, November, we can't use that money for anything else.
Correct.
We can't use any of free cash for anything else, not just this.
Free cash that has not been appropriated after certification cannot be spent
Not a big deal.
Right.
Until certification.
until
Whatever you
certification.
don't,
Right,
whatever you don't appropriate at May,
Right.
you can't spend until it's certified.
right.
Can't add anything else.
So roughly November.
That was-
This year was September.
Last year.
Yeah.
September 9th this year.
You're right, but it's not nothing like borrowing or over borrowing or
No.
anything like that.
And it's still gaining interest.
Questions? Deb?
No, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I also have a question, because in the past, I think this looks like this was just a representative sample from a vehicle that was on the lot. I mean, it does have some, nice package options in there that I don't necessarily know are required, like the built-in Google compatibility system. Do we look at like other types of vehicles when we're doing this and maybe more, that would meet our needs but be more cost effective? And is there options that may require us ordering, and are the backlogs still kind of long?
Yeah, so we currently have a Ford Explorer, and the reason why the last one's been a Tahoe and this one is the availability of them. Yeah, they're very nice vehicles. They have this stuff. We can have this particular one, if it's still there, we can have this as soon as the money's available. The Ford Explorer, which will come out to about the same price. From what the fleet manager tells me, the police departments basically have the corner on the market, so if we order one of those for similar price, they put us on the back of the line. We're 12 to 16 to 18 months, depending on who you talk to. It's an SUV, four-wheel drive, and yeah, they just come with this stuff. It's not something where, it's not the top of the line Tahoe. It's certainly not what we're out trying to do. I think just a vehicle at this level, that's nowadays what they're coming with.
I see.
Yeah,
Certainly, saving a few $1,000 for like waiting 18 months doesn't make sense to me either. So I'm just questioning the availabilities of the vehicle.
Yeah, I think we had a big discussion about this last year and maybe the year before that, and it'll come up in town meeting again. I think it has a lot to do with what's on the lot, and if you tried to order something without the bells and whistles, it would cost more and take longer.
Right.
So you're kind of taking something that's already there.
They're base model.
Yeah.
These requirements going to take longer.
It's going to take longer and cost more.
It's going to be a couple $1,000 savings, not $25,000.
Chris?
I'm probably one of the people that helps fuel this conversation, but in looking at this, one of the things I didn't see is anything that talks about like floor liners. And I know our techs do a really good job of keeping our vehicles maintained, so they tend to last longer, but like that would be one of the perks that I would want to see potentially in a vehicle, of coming in and out in all weather, whatnot, things that are going to keep the vehicle even longer. So I'm just looking at the specs. I didn't happen to see that, and I didn't know if in the other one it just is mentioned under MPS and whatever the other things, but are there floor liners and liners for under the seats, like WeatherTech stuff?
So actually, it's probably not in this quote, but we actually, almost all the vehicles over there have the WeatherTech.
Yeah, and usually that's the case, but I just want to make sure, because again, makes the vehicles last longer, and make sure that when we are doing an investment like this, that we're staying consistent with all of those practices and across the board.
Right. And one of the things Mike and I had talked about earlier, Christian, is it's a recurring problem with this frame rot. It's the body looks great. It's all the frame underneath. It's with the new DPW garage. We've been taking the apparatus, and the command staff cars will now be going and getting the underwash. Probably weekly in the winter, and less frequently during the summer. But hopefully that will, that car out there has low mileage. I will be driving that for another 20 years myself. But the frame rotted.
Yeah.
So one of the things that maybe remember that we instituted a few years back was the undercoating. Making sure that's standard on. If it doesn't come with the car, we're adding it as part of the fleet maintenance operating budget to all the cars to try to extend, to keep this from happening. As much as we can.
Other questions? I would also say that we heard from Capital Budget, I think I forwarded that to everyone, but they approved this article. They also looked at it. So one more set of eyes.
Did they get underneath it?
I bet they did. I don't know. Did they? I don't know. No? They usually do. Oh,
They're still underneath.
You didn't see them under there when you looked there.
I'm disappointed. Ernie wasn't there then if they didn't get it. Put it up on the rack. Any other questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve $94,000 from free cash for a fire command vehicle. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Rob Neufeld?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
David Tate?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 1500. Article 3.6, fire cardiac monitor equipment for
I'm not gonna-
$181,000.
Chief.
Yeah, so this is to replace the cardiac monitors and defibrillators. It'll actually be 6 pieces of equipment. 3 of them are the cardiac monitors. They're the ones you'll see if they're going into the house in the ambulance. Suitcase-style monitor, blood pressure cuff, oxygen sensor. Quite complex. They can go in, put you on a 12 lead, take a printout, have a reading of whatever type of activity is going on, do that at the hospital. They're compatible with the hospital stuff. They're very expensive. The maintaining is, if they break, is very expensive. So those are coming at the end of their 7-year life with the warranty. This also comes with 3 frontline defibrillators. Those are smaller ones. We might have them in here that the engines would have if they were first on scene. It has capabilities of talk you through shocking a person and whatnot. When the medics get there with the ambulance, they take the bigger piece of equipment that will hook up into their machine, and then they go from there. So that's what those are. There'll be one for each ambulance and 1 defibrillator for the 2 engines on the tower.
Okay.
Subcommittee supported 2-0.
Questions? Roger?
It probably makes sense to replace them all at the same time, but is there any benefit to somehow spreading out the cost? Staggering the replacements?
We could probably look into that. This is probably something where he started at, when we went to full-time ALS. He probably bought, my guess is he bought them all at the same time. Well, I have an EMS director, so he gives me all this information. I'm assuming he bought them all at the same time, and now we're...
I take my question back. I think in terms of training, you probably want the same equipment everywhere, so everybody's trained on the same equipment. There's no question about, which unit is this and which generation.
Yeah.
I take it back.
Okay.
It should all be the same.
Yeah, we definitely need the same.
Deb?
Does the cost estimate include like preventative maintenance contract built in?
It does. It includes a bumper-to-bumper warranty basically. And we had a screen, I guess, break on one of them a couple years ago, and it was covered for replacement. And it's $20,000 screen on the machine. So.
Thanks.
David?
Again, probably not. They're just out of warranty now, so that's why we want to replace them, which makes sense. Do they have any resale value or trade-in value, or what do you do with the ones where they're just out? I mean, cars.
You want one?
I'll follow up on that. I actually don't know if they take them back. That's a good question.
There's a trade-in allowance on the quote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I didn't read it.
2,500.
No?
Yeah.
There you go.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's probably just for Patrick. I noticed in the Zoll contractors indemnification clause, and I always get worried when I see the word indemnifying the person is selling it to you when it's a life-saving item. So just make sure that legal is either striking that out or comfortable with it.
We are generally, yes, any sort of contract like this would be managed through legal to make sure, particularly when there's indemnification clauses.
Yeah.
You generally don't sign those, but yes.
Okay, thanks.
Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I noticed that there's no contingency, 10% added to this, and the quote expired on 12/31.
We actually, thank you for the question. We negotiated with this particular contract and this particular agreement to have a price guarantee through the fiscal year.
Oh, great. Good, thanks.
Anybody else? Chris?
I think this is more for administration than it is for fire, so I apologize, but I just want us to be slightly cautious with the words of at or nearing life, end of life, because I feel that this has gotten some of our financial articles into some big questions when we get towards these. I mean, we're talking about on this ALS that is also a cost revenue that we can use, and it makes sense, and this is good stuff, but just when we're starting to use those terms, I think there's things that we can learn from the BHS project of when we're using that with boilers and using that to try to push through a project, and just being very careful of, are we at, is end of life a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 6 months? What does that exactly mean? And not trying to, pick at this article, because this is, I think, an important one, and we do get money back for this, but just for us being very careful on that terminology.
Appreciate that.
Anyone else?
Move to approve?
Second?
Oh, Cheyenne?
Oh, sorry.
And second?
Cheyenne?
Yes, yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Question, all these systems that you're putting in the ambulance, can you communicate with the local hospitals? I have seen systems where, the initial parameters that you're getting, pressure, glucose, whatever, in the ambulance is communicated to the hospital so that emergency services can move faster.
These are connected to the hospital, I think you mentioned.
Oh.
He said
They're compatible. If you're asking, are we notifying the hospital what we're doing?
I think he's asking, does it automatically, so do they see
Not
the,
notifying the hospital. I think what I'm asking is direct communication. Like, is the system that you're implementing, does it go directly to, say, Layton or Winchester or Mass General? Is there a way to send all that information in one kind of issue, as opposed to, reporting?
So is there an automatic connection from what it's picking up to the hospitals?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I'm not 100% sure.
What was that TV show?
So, Dr. Google says that this model is compatible with telemetry to the hospital. Don't know if it's implemented.
I know the EMS director told me they I forget the phrase he used, that with Leahy.
Yeah.
How exactly that works, I'm not sure if it's when they wheel them into the building.
has the capability, isn't it?
Right, but for the purposes of the purchase, it's capable of doing what we might want to do.
Well, I think I'm asking, not just for, this budget season, but more for the future. Like, will we be compatible with future systems? Making both our emergency responders, work a little easier, and expediting who goes into the hospital and why.
So I think that's a great idea, but it's a very different level of compatibility than just the equipment being compatible. It requires a service level compatibility and, buy-in from the hospital that you're going to feed them information. That's something which it's a different thing completely.
I understand it's not really a budget question. It's more of a technology question, but since we're here,
Anyone else?
Good to go? Motion to approve?
Second?
So we have a motion and a second for $181,000 from free cash for Article 3.6 Fire Cardiac Monitor Equipment. Cheyenne?
yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Rob Neufeld?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rasso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
David Tate?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 15-0. Article 12, transfer from,
Can I go back one just for a brief question on the command card? And it's probably a question for,
if you must, yeah.
well, I must, well, I don't have to, but, so I noticed at the end of the sheet, there was a 5-year fiscal year projection for the next 5 years. And this year it was 94,000, and it drops to 73, and then 75, and 779. My question at the time, and now is still, the car that's going to be released next year is obviously a cheaper car because it's only 77,000 is being projected.
I believe it's a Ford Escape, or those other vehicles are Ford Escape. So we have the other command response vehicles sort of have a less of a first line response. So those are smaller SUVs.
Okay.
So fire prevention and EMS lieutenant.
All right, and the replacement on the other command vehicle is off the end of this timeline? You said there were two, chief and assistant chiefs both have that level of vehicle?
Chiefs was replaced last year.
Yeah, one year approved last.
Okay, so it is off the end of this 5-year projection?
Oh, right, it's probably at year 10 or 11. Yep.
15 with car wash.
I live in Burlington, so mine's going to be nothing.
All right, sorry for the
That's okay.
late question.
Article 12, transfer from the revolving, or
Receipts reserved.
receipts reserve, sorry, I just lost that for a minute.
So this will be the fourth time we're doing this. We implemented ALS as a service in-house.
Thank you, Chief.
Back
Thank you.
in March of 2020. And we didn't do it that year because we wanted to seed the receipts reserve fund. Since then, we've been transferring $360,000 to offset the operating budget. As I said, that was the plan, to do that for 4 or 5 years, build up a balance in that account, get some data on how much we think we're going to have in revenues each year. So this is what we have to do when we get a receipt for an ambulance billing. If it's for BLS, it goes in the operating budget as a general fund revenue, and it stays there. If we get an ALS receipt, a payment for an ALS run, that goes into this receipts reserved fund and would need to be appropriated. So we can't just use the money that's in that fund to offset ambulance costs. If we made a change in the contract, we couldn't just fund it from there. We have to have an appropriation. So this is a place for us to capture those receipts and not have them close every year the way the BLS ambulance receipts do. That to us is a local receipt. It's budgeted in revenues, and that hasn't changed. So again, annual article. We have a couple times we've funded a ambulance out of this fund also. We'll likely do that next year. So there'll be 2 of these transfers next year, and it's very likely that the transfer for offsetting the operating budget next year will be a higher number as the costs of running ALS have increased, and we have better data on what type of revenues we're talking about to help do that.
Subcommittee?
2-0 support.
Deb?
So I actually looked at the authorize the revolving first. So educating me, what's the difference then between like this R&R type account versus the revolving? Because it seems like they both serve the same purpose.
Sure. So they're both what's called special revenue funds. So they're both established. So now when you get receipts, any receipt to a municipality, is considered general fund revenue unless there's some law that allows it to be something else. Some of those laws allow you to put it in a revolving account and have that money spent and carried over year to year. Some of it has to go into what's called the receipts reserved. We have several of these, which means it can be segregated and it's not part of your general fund, but you have to appropriate it in order to spend it, unlike a revolving account where, some revolving accounts we have are part of a bylaw, and those have to have a spending authorization each year. Many revolving accounts we have don't. So it's just a different type of special revenue account, and it's from a different statute that allows you to not put it in the general fund and put it somewhere else.
How you use the money. Yes.
Correct.
Okay, got it, thanks.
Questions? Frank, you're biting your tongue.
Well, all right, you baited me.
No, don't feel pressure.
As a cost, our health insurance, right, does cover some of these expenses, correct? If it's a Burlington resident that has a emergency, gets an ambulance, and it's the insurance.
And they're one of our employees?
Yes,
Oh.
it's covered, right?
Employees, yes.
Maybe, yep.
And like every other town, there's some health insurance that's covering at least a major portion of these things. My question is this.
If it's your employee that's going in the ambulance.
Right, yeah. the
Health insurance is only going to play if our employee is in the ambulance. If it's somebody else, health insurance doesn't pay for
Well,
anything.
you bill no matter what.
We're billing somebody's health insurance.
Right. Okay.
Or Medicare.
So, all right, so as health insurance goes up, as premiums go up, as costs go up, do we get more back in the billing as a direct result of that? In other words, the service is costing more. Are we billing more?
Yeah, so our billing is dictated based on what the allowable rates are for your area. So we have a Medicare allowable rate. So if the person's paid by Medicare, there's a certain amount that you're going to be reimbursed.
And what if
that's
they're
when it's
not?
maxed.
Like if it's United
If it's a
Healthcare?
private, say there's a car accident
Yeah.
on Middlesex Turnpike, and both of them have a private insurer, where we would bill, and we delivered them both to the hospital. We would be billing at a higher rate that's allowed because it's not a Medicare.
Okay.
And then it's up to that
Okay.
hospital and the person's insurance. So the insurance may pay a certain amount of it, and then the individual would have to pay their deductible, or if they didn't have insurance, it'd be
So basically, we can stay whole even though costs of these things are rising because the revenue should be rising with it,
yeah.
right? That's the first question. The second one is in the what is it called, accounts receivable or something? Where this money?
Receipts reserve?
Yeah, receipts reserve. You think the balance in that after you take out what you want to siphon off for the operating budget is kind of the number you want to buy something like an ambulance? Or are we getting a good surplus in there anyway?
So we're at the point now where we're running 2 ALS ambulance. So, a lot of the times before, if both of our ambulances were out, one can only bill at the BLS rate because we're not running it as an ALS ambulance, and only one could, and the other one could. If they're both running at ALS, the revenue's going to go up because they can both bill at the ALS rate.
And what's the health of the account on a fiscal year basis? How much surplus after you siphon off your 360, whatever we got?
Yeah, so it used to be about 700, 775. The last 2 years have been close to $1 million because we've been
All right.
providing more
And
ALS
one of
services.
these heavy-duty ambulances runs about,
About 600,000.
all right, so we could be operating at a positive net balance long-term.
Yeah.
As long as you don't buy an ambulance every year.
Well, you wouldn't, I mean,
Well, that's
Well, you
factored
might.
in
I mean,
already.
ambulances aren't only going to last,
They're not.
they're not going to last
No, they-
10 or 15 years.
They don't.
all right. I think I get it. Can we use the money for anything other than, can we use it for a fire truck?
No.
It has to be for emergency
Because we're segregating it specifically for this
By
program,
ALS.
that's what we'd have to appropriate. So what we could do is close it to free cash and say
You could.
we're not running this program anymore.
Or we've
Any
got
revenue
a
coming in.
balance bigger than we need to carry.
I don't think you're allowed to surplus, just surplus it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's an interesting problem.
Did we buy the heart monitors out of this fund?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, if it's going to be in an ambulance that's also going to run BLS,
No.
it's
Okay.
a sticky wicket.
Yeah. Got it.
Wow.
Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and apologize, Frank piqued my interest.
I apologize, but he's going to make you pay.
Do we have billing operations, so we have to bill insurance companies?
Yeah, we don't do it, we pay a service that,
So
and they do the
service.
billing for us, and then they take a % of the revenue.
Gotcha, thank you.
It's just so specialized.
Absolutely.
Pretty much.
Yeah, no, it's a mess.
Very few fire departments are doing it themselves, and if they are, that person's worth so much, they're going to switch jobs all the time.
Gotcha, thank you.
Would that same billing service bill youth and family services?
I heard that coming.
I hope so.
All right. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for a transfer of $360,000 from the ambulance receipts reserved to offset the FY27 budget. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy? Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Rob Neufeld?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
David Tate?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 15-0-0. Thank you. Shawsheen, come on down. Thank you for being patient. Sorry about Frank.
He asked the last question.
Boy, did you get thrown under the bus.
I was pausing, I'm telling you.
I'm sorry, Frank. I'm sorry.
So thank you for having us. Tony McIntosh, Superintendent, Shawsheen Valley Technical School. Happy to introduce Paul Livingston. Paul is our interim business manager for this year. I'm glad Paul could join me tonight. So when you guys start asking tough questions, I'm just going to pass the baton to him. So I'm going to do a high overview, and then again, I'm sure there's going to be some questions. I'm happy to answer them and get more into some of the details as we go from there. Looking at our budget, we are picking up 2 positions that were grant funded for the past couple of years that has added to our budget for this year. We are looking at a 10% health insurance increase. I don't think that that's probably a shock to anybody in this room. We are also going into the first year of a new busing contract, so that had gone out to bid. So that has also raised some of our operating costs. Just kind of a high number or high level flyover here. Our total budget ask for FY27 is, and this isn't Burlington share, this is total budget, $44,338,798. We're anticipating getting $1,323,733 in transportation aid, $7,092,348 in Chapter 70 aid, and then we're going to use approximately $520,000 out of grants and revolving accounts to help offset those costs, which means the total assessment to our communities for FY27 is $35,402,717. We kind of jumped down, if you will, to Burlington specifically. Burlington's enrollment went up almost 20.5% between FY26 and FY27. Last year was the first time ever that Burlington had filled all of its allotted seats. Burlington is on track to not only fill all their seats this year, but probably exceed the number of seats again. So when you look at what we're asking for in FY27 from the town of Burlington, the capital budget contribution is $137,769. The FY27 required minimum contribution, according to the Department of Ed, is $2,469,946. The operating agreement assessment, again, which is the document that governs and runs our regional district, would be $1,298,634. For a total assessment to Burlington for FY27 of $3,906,349. Like I said, Burlington's enrollment is up about 20.5%. The required minimum contribution that the state sets is up 25.78%. Again, that's a number that they determine and provide to us. And then overall, if you look at the percent increase across the budget, Burlington's share is up 27.28. So enrollment went up, required minimum contributions went up, total assessment to the town went up. And I think, unless there's more detail that people want, I don't think we really need to dive into our other sending communities and how this impacted them, because I'm sure all of you have better things to talk about than what's going on in some of our other towns. Paul, is there anything you want to add to that conversation?
Subcommittee?
So subcommittee voted 4-0 in favor. I do want to point out that our two school committee members, Kent Moffett and Stacy Huberty, are here, and they also were here for our subcommittee meeting as well, so we appreciated them being at our subcommittee meeting as well as this one. A couple points that we had during the meeting is one of the things we talked about as a subcommittee is wanting to move up our process for actually reviewing the budget so it's in line when they're reviewing it through either the subcommittee or through the school committee, which is much earlier than ours, is in early February. But that way, if there really needs to be involvement in some of the budget process, and it's not after some of the other districts have even voted on it. So that was one of the things. We also pointed out one of the things with difference between Burlington Public Schools is that we have a budget recommendation of around 4.5%. This is obviously much more than that. It's important to remember that the difference between Shawsheen Tech and Burlington Public Schools is Shawsheen doesn't come to us for warrant articles, exception for one this year, for a feasibility study, but in general, they cover everything from insurance to snow plowing, and so they do it all within their budget, and so that makes up for some of the reasons for why their budget tends to be a higher percentage than, say, Burlington Public Schools, because they don't have access to that same account. We also had a conversation about E&D, which was a big one before, which we're waiting for that to be certified. Thank you. As well as we had some a 2-hour conversation about some pretty lengthy things within the budget.
Okay. Questions? John? Oh,
Wait, take Mike first.
Mike?
So, yeah, so E&D, I don't know what that is.
So that's excess and deficiency. Again, we're considered a municipality under kind of the state's umbrella. That's the equivalent of free cash for our sending communities. So we're allowed to keep up to 5% of our previous year's budget, again, as a emergency contingency fund.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, so many questions. Yes, start the clock. So I guess the first one is about enrollment. So our enrollment went up, and I know we've been undersubscribed, and I think you're saying this year we are right at our allocation, and you're anticipating that we're likely to exceed our allocation, presumably because other communities aren't hitting your allocation?
So each community is given so many spots. And what happened for the first time last year with Burlington is we actually had more applicants than we had seats available, which kind of rocked some people's world. But then we're seeing the same thing this year. So I can dig the numbers out. I believe Burlington has 54 seats for the class of 2030, and I think we had like 90 or 95 applications. So we have almost 2 to 1 the applications for seats. So just to kind of, in FY25, Burlington's enrollment with us was 118. It went to 119 for FY26, so there wasn't a huge difference. It jumped to 143 for FY27. Based on what we're seeing, that I'm gonna predict that number is probably gonna go up another 20 or 25 students in FY28.
But I assume the only way we can go above our allocation is because other communities are not hitting their allocation? Okay.
Right, and we're not seeing that now. So at one time, Bedford and Burlington didn't necessarily fill all their seats. What we've seen the last couple of years and what the trend appears to be is it looks like all of our sending communities, are gonna start filling their allotments. So we won't have some of those imbalances from year to year.
Okay, so if other communities do hit their allotments, then presumably we wouldn't be able to go
add extra
by as much.
Right.
Okay, just want to make sure I understood that. And just related to that is, and I mean, this is touching on your feasibility study a little bit, but one of the things you mentioned is that you have an issue with overcrowding right now. Because the school was designed for 1,000, we have 1,300. So I guess the question would be, why are you admitting more people if it's overcrowded? Why not just cut it back so you're not overcrowded?
Because we still have 200 to 250 students every year that we can't offer admissions to. So again, we're trying to find that sweet spot, if you will, between the demand we have from sending communities, the outreach or outcry from parents and students that they want availability to those things. We're at a tipping point. So I will be honest, We had been taking 350 freshmen. Our class of 2030, we lowered that number to 330. And we're going to look at, as we go forward, and we had a small, so this year's senior class is small, it's only about 300 kids. This year's juniors class is small, it was only about 300 kids. But we really have to be very strategic about the size of classes that we bring in from this point, because we're at that point where we just can't continue to add more students.
Right, I mean, it's a solvable problem, obviously.
Right.
But, okay. So, getting into this stuff that's in the news a lot is, the overspend of, some 200K. Was that FY '24?
That was FY '24.
Yeah, okay. So I guess sort of the general questions are, how did this happen? What procedures did you have in place, and why did they fail, and what are you changing?
So again, as to how it happened, I mean, we obviously weren't on top of those numbers the way we should have been. What happened around this time last year, I had gone back to the school committee. We have put in some budget spending timelines now. So like tools, textbook, software have to be spent by a certain date. Anything out of a supplies budget has to be spent by a certain date. Anything out of contracted services has to be spent by a certain date. Paul and his team, well, his partner, I guess, is not really a team, have been instrumental in helping us align spending and tracking and making sure that, if somebody's calling out this as a funding source, that we verified, yes, the money's there, yes, it's available, yes, it will cover the request. So we've done our best to respond to that. Some of it's through policy, some of it's through more day-to-day operational things, and we are more closely tracking the budget.
A couple simple things. Having done this work for over 40 years, I was a teacher for 10, but the other 30 I've been superintendent and business manager for 5 years. The first thing you notice when you come into a district is the salaries and how they're handling those, because that's the largest portion of it. Shawsheen didn't have a personnel database. There was no one document in today's world with easy technology that said, here's everybody, and here's everything they get, here's their address, how they get paid, what they get for stipends, what they get for longevity, what they get for all the different things. You can't function well without that. Every good school system, every good entity has a personnel database where you can build your budget, you can tie it to the salary schedules that are in place for non-union and union people, so that you can annually build your budget and see what accounts it's going to. That was one of the first things we put in place, because that was not there. The system, the Munis system, I don't know what you use in town, but you probably use Munis.
Yeah.
We use Munis. It's been around for years. I used it, 30 years ago. It's not been used fully. The people were not getting reports monthly. In terms, there wasn't a sense of culture where you were accountable for holding to that money. And now we are sending out a monthly report to the committee, to every department head, to all the administrators, an expense report, so that if they have to spend something, they have to show what line it's coming out of. There were transfer forms that had existed but really had lost their life. Transfer forms are back in action. Internal transfer forms, when a department asks the graphics department to create a sign, when the food service, provides something for an activity, they're really an internal vendor. And they weren't being treated that way. They were just sort of expected to, oh, the money's there, find the money. Well, we now have an internal transfer form where they actually have asked those department heads to give an invoice. An invoice that turns into an internal transfer where the department requesting it has to indicate what line they're taking the money from. Then we're transferring it into the department where it belongs. Obviously, a lot of those materials cost money. If you're doing a book or something like that, this kind of budget book. But a lot of it is instructional too. It's important for our kids in graphics to be able to do projects like that. So we're not, charging all the labor and things like that, but charging for the materials. Those are the kinds of things that I think we've been able to bring in. It's not fully, integrated, but people are beginning to sense there's a new sheriff around. There's people watching. We're looking at it, and we're tracking, and I think we're doing a much better job of it.
So And that all sounds exactly the right direction and kind of what I was looking for. Along those lines, for the past years, has the school committee been getting monthly financial statements to review spending to date and the year-to-date budget to see how that?
It's getting very garbled. The audio is getting very garbled and broken up.
Okay. We'll try to speak into the mics, but I don't think it's on.
I can't get much closer.
On this end.
So they were getting reports. And what we've started doing this year is quarterly, they're also getting the details. So again, it was by, I call them cost centers. I don't know if that's the right term, but like, school admin office, teaching, HVAC. So it was kind of the big number, which included salaries, supplies, contracted services, software. What we're also doing now to kind of break that down further is quarterly, it's going to the budget subcommittee as well, and it's showing this is what's left in the salary account. This is what's left in the contracted services account. So we've gotten to a different level of detail with that. The other thing that we've done...
At what frequency is the school committee reviewing that?
Quarterly.
Okay, why isn't that monthly?
So we also brought on, we have a part-time district treasurer that was hired October, November, I think end of October, beginning of November. So he is also going through that. He's doing cash reconciliation for us. He's also monitoring actual versus budgeted spending, and he is providing a monthly report to the school committee based on his review. So we're trying to...
Is the school committee seeing those reports with the numbers as opposed to a summary is what I'm concerned about?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're trying to make changes. We're trying to...
And people are getting accustomed to reading them. We're having department heads begin to ask, well, that doesn't look like it was the right expenditure. So we can print them in detail immediately. And they can go through and see exactly all of the expenditures, the POs they had, where it was spent, what it ended up, costing.
Does that include all the revolving accounts also?
The revolving accounts, grants, and student activity accounts were actually sort of all mixed together. And we spent a long time untangling them. And there were existence of grants from back in the early 2000s that hadn't been, they were closed out with DESE, but they were still part of the overall mess. Revolving accounts that people did not know the names of, where was this from? Some of them were negative, some of them were positive. We've, as I said, untangled all that paint that was mixed together, unmixed, and we now have a balance for each. And student activities belongs with the building. By the guidance, the regulations of the Department of Education, they have to be audited by an external auditor once a year, and the business manager would be looking at them.
I can't hear anything you're saying. Sorry.
Is that better? Is that better if I'm talking through the mic?
Any better? No, we lost him.
I'll try.
Steve, can you hear us? Is this across the board with WebEx, or is this an individual problem?
The audio was fine until just a few seconds ago.
Steve Moran?
Perhaps it's a no.
How about Meg?
Meg, can you hear us? No.
I mean, it looks like it's going in and out.
No, it looks like we somehow, oh no, we're not.
Now it looks better.
Anything? I'm not sure what to say.
We need Delphi.
Huh?
We need Delphi.
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah.
Can they watch it not via WebEx, but maybe via VCAT or
The only thing you can do is log out of WebEx and start over.
Or what if they watch through VCAT?
VCAT's usually terrible.
I'm afraid if I close this meeting, I can't reopen it, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Well, they're no worse off.
So guys, I'm gonna log out and restart the meeting. We'll see if that helps. If not,
bye.
We still have a quorum and we have to keep moving.
Should we pause until you do that?
We probably should.
Okay.
So this is where I can ask all my questions, because they won't count.
Go right ahead, Frank.
Actually, Frank, BCAT.
Would you touch join meeting on the top? I mean, I could do it with this mouse, but
Yeah, every time I try to do any of these things through DCAT versus WebEx or Facebook, BCAT's never.
I can hear you guys.
You can
Hear us?
well, you can't now.
We solved that problem.
Restarting.
That'll work.
Every little boy does it.
This meeting is being transcribed, I summarized.
How are we doing now?
Can you hear us now?
Much better.
All right, moving on. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
All right,
So,
we fixed the internet.
Moving on, even we found out that when the original Munis setup was done, they had not properly entered the beginning balances. So right now, we're in process of going back many, many years, and with Tyler's assistance, Munis Tyler assistance, they've helped us to bring those beginning balances in. So, I mean, there's just been an awful lot of cleanup. And, luckily, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and, a lot of things mixed together gets a little brown, and we're clearing it up, and now we have a balanced reach. So we can move forward. We've closed some of the old, brought them off the books, because when you bring up reports, it just brings up all of this stuff that makes it awkward for people to look at, and it makes no sense. So that's been also part of the cleanup. So trying to bring in the standard operating procedures for how you use the system, and we're working on bringing in employee access now at the end of this year, and certainly into the summer and big time next year, where admin assistants will be able to enter requisitions. They will be able to, they go through a workflow process. Again, the system was not being used. I'm sure you probably already do this in town. It goes through the various administrators, the department head, the vocational director, the principal, and the business manager for approval. If it doesn't meet the account line, all the standard kinds of things. Is it perfect? No, but it's being put in place, and it's much better, and I think we've got a better handle on it.
Does the balance sheet match up with the bank account at this point now? Or?
It does now.
Okay. It obviously didn't.
Those are part of the reasons why the E&D has not been timely in the past few years. A couple of years ago, it was actually in June. As you know, E&D free cash is certified before you set your tax rate. Our E&D should be done by the fall. This year, we're just close to getting the FY25 E&D done. We're almost there, I hope. We're working through the process. So, the goal is that next year, E&D can be done in the fall, and these things will be in place, and we'll have a better, control of what should be.
So
we began in August, and, there's two of us that are, have both different experiences, but we bring something to the table.
And that sounds like it's going in the right direction. So the obvious question is how often are financial audits done by third parties? And I'm imagining it's every year?
Every year.
Yes, yeah.
And how did they not catch this then? I guess it sounds like there's a fair number of issues that a reasonable audit would have caught.
I think there are also some issues across the state of many of the small audit firms have been purchased by, another firm that's been a conglomerate that's growing. And, AT&T grew big, and, this has grown big, and sometimes you grow fast. And, I can't speak for the past. But there were some, and as a corporation, not my corporation, but as the business I work for, this is also being seen elsewhere.
So, and maybe with the industry consolidating, this becomes a difficult thing to do. Are we changing audit firms? Or?
This is the last year of our current contract, so we are definitely looking to see what other options are out there.
Are they accepting any liability for not catching this, or?
That's not in my hands as the...
I know the answer is no, but have you at least beat them up about it?
Read the fine print.
I think my recommendation after many years and many conversations would be that you might end up spending more in legal fees than you're going to ever see coming back. That's a sad thing to say, but I think it's
I understand.
reality.
Can I just make a comment? So just on the audit question.
You have to come to the mic, sir, yeah.
So I've been on for
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry. Did I give you a fake address? No, Cam Moffat, I'm one of the Shawsheen Tech members. Just a question on the audit. So we did have an audit firm on for about 20 years. And basically when I first started, so that firm actually dropped the business. And this was kind of put us in a situation where we had to kind of find a firm. And what it was put out to bid. But the problem was the two firms that actually bid for it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, basically were both taken over by the current company. So I think that's where a lot of the challenge, so you got this historical one, and then you kind of got a new firm that kind of came in and was consolidated with a couple of them, and now that same firm has been taken, so it's like, then you're dealing with that. I mean, I work in corporate sector for a long time, and you see these firms, I think to be perfectly honest, I think that's also not helping the situation where it's also they're going through some structural changes on their end too.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand that's a challenge. And I understand there's a limited number of companies that are, quote, experts in the municipal space, but these sound like things that any reasonable CPA would catch. Maybe their municipal expertise isn't particularly important, and maybe just having a good CPA would be a better choice if they're willing to do it. I mean, maybe we're artificially limiting ourselves in terms of who we're looking for. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe no one else is willing to bid on it. I guess that would be a question.
The last time it went out, we got two bids, and as Mr. Moffat had stated, both of those companies have now been bought out by this kind of larger corporate entity.
Yeah, I guess the challenge is how to solicit some of a wider net.
I'm sure you see there are very few individual accountants or firms that understand fund accounting and municipal accounting.
And it sounds like the ones that do understand it don't understand it either. All right.
John, how far down this path off the budget are you going?
Did I get off the field? All right. Well, I mean, this is all going. This all goes to the budget ultimately. I think this. How much we believe it, right? That's really what this is boiling down to. So, okay, and on the. So it sounds like there's something I don't quite understand. There's how much the budget went up, and then there's how much, quote, we really went up because some stuff was miscategorized in transportation. Can you elaborate on what that's all about?
Yeah, so in the FY26 budget, again, researching the 56 years or whatever it is of the school, FY26 was done differently than it's ever been done at any other point that we can find. What should have happened was the total cost of transportation should have gone into the FY26 budget, and then the transportation reimbursement, the offset from the revolving account, should have been subtracted from that total. What happened last year, again, under the advice of the previous business manager, we didn't include the total amount. We only included in the budget the difference between the expected reimbursement and the total cost. So instead of the approximately $1.7 million being in the budget and us backing out the 1.5 for our transportation revolving and the offsets, what ended up happening was it was only about, 275, 260?
216, I think.
There was only a small amount. It was only the delta that was actually built into the budget total. So it kind of
No budget
skewed.
is done that way.
No, and I agree you're correct in how it should be done. But even though done incorrectly, the net was correct?
Yes.
So if the net was correct last year and the net's correct this year, then shouldn't the percentage increase be accurate?
No, because it's comparing back to the old budget.
The old budget?
The previous year's budget.
FY26.
The FY26 budget.
Right, but
25.
You're comparing net to net in both cases, right? So I'm not understanding why that wouldn't be accurate.
We've had these same discussions back and forth, but in talking to treasurers and others that we have done, and confirmed it in our own head the same way you're doing at this point, and I'm not the one that did actually all those calculations, but it should have been it should have been apples for apples, and you don't have an apples for apples budget from FY26 to FY27. You have a 4.6% difference.
Right. I guess I'm not hearing a good explanation for that in the end. I would need to see some numbers to validate that. I'm not.
Do they have the budget?
They have the book.
Yeah, but I don't think we have anything that would explain what you're talking about with this percentage being one versus the other.
If you were to look at page 41 in the budget, the budget last year for FY26, the grant offset would have been 587,812. This year we're using 520. Last year it was 39,468,019, and the transportation aid that would have come in last year was 1,365,443, which would have resulted in a budget of 38,102,576. And that would have, and then if you go back to what was missing as that transportation aid, it was not included, and that represents that percentage of the budget.
Wouldn't we add those offsets back to get the actual budget last year, which was larger?
No, you would take them down, because that's aid that came in as an offset.
But we're doing that in reverse to figure out what the apple to compare to this year's apple would be.
I don't know the best way to say it, other than we've grappled with it ourselves and checked it with treasurers and others, and the budget was short last year, that amount of money.
So are you saying that
the overall bottom line budget did not include those dollars?
So the operating budget that was presented last year was artificially low?
Yes.
And the assessments to communities were then also low because it was based on that number?
Yes. I have to think through the regional agreement.
I think the assessments were correct. I just think it was the...
How could the assessments be correct if it's based on the operating budget?
Because it's the way in which the regional agreement calls for a full budget and taking into account, just as we do any grant offsets or any other, kinds of offsets that we have, such as transportation aid, such as Chapter 70, and then looking at apples for apples, bottom line to bottom line. And last year's budget was low in terms of its number, but the offset would have been there anyways.
So the offset was applied sort of after the reported operating budget?
It was very convoluted.
But it was factored into the regional assessments.
Yeah.
So the percentage increase on the total community assessment is an accurate increase year to year.
Right.
Because both of them include all the numbers.
Right.
And isn't that total assessment increase, in fact, the
7.08%?
I'm sorry, say again?
7.08, yeah.
Right, so I'm not, so I understand where the reporting on the budget, you might argue something was off, but in terms of the actual amount being assessed, it really did go up 7%.
So yes, but as a point of clarification, there's a couple of things. So our operating budget is the total cost to run the district for the year. The assessments are based on required minimum contributions that are published by the state in the regional agreement. So even though our budget went up 6.09, our assessments of the communities are going up 7.08. And if you look at the table, each one of those communities are kind of taking the brunt of that, if you will, in different ways based on what their required minimum.
Right, I understand the divvying up changes each year, and we in particular got whacked.
Yes.
But you know, that's the way it goes when people go there. But I think the point is that, at least as far as I can understand it, it really is a 7% increase is really the right number to be looking at, and this idea that it's really a smaller number isn't really valid in my mind.
It is 6.6.
Yeah, I mean, it's 6.09, and but it's reflecting a mistake from last year.
It's corrected.
Right, okay.
It's reflecting something that wasn't included last year.
Right, okay.
And that's how we were trying to be transparent here and show it in that way, that, you know, because when you go through the actual, you know, lines of the budget and you look departmentally as we have, we really asked the departments to hold tight on, you know, their increases. A lot of these departments have negative increases overall because we knew we had to make up for this somehow. We had to fix it.
You got your work cut out for you. I understand that, and I appreciate that you're making things go the right way.
When I started, and all.
Yeah, no, you knew what you were getting into. So I appreciate you sticking with it. Trying to wrap it up here. I guess and I pass this on to the subcommittee just so it wouldn't be a surprise. I would be interested in seeing the monthly reports that the school committee is looking at. You know, I feel good that the business management is making the right set of changes, and all the things you're talking about are exactly the things that I was worried about and
normally in place.
And are normally in place, and you're putting them in place. And I think that's all good. The final piece of the puzzle for me to, you know, get to a warmer fuzzy than where I started is to see what the school committee is reviewing on a monthly basis, and you know, we went through this a number of years ago in a much smaller way when we changed business managers in Burlington. We had a small overrun, and there weren't monthly reviews by the school committee, and so we had a lot of similar things, which is why I'm really just going back to my notes from 5 years ago or whatever and asking the same questions, and as part of that, an investigation was done, and there's a written report of, look, here's the list of things that went wrong. Here's what we're doing to change them, and and hence why it won't happen again. And so I'd like to see some similar document that describes that. Otherwise, I like everything you're saying and I like what you're doing, but have we missed something? Of my 300 questions, should I have asked 301? So having some kind of documentation that says, here's, we understood, mistakes were made, here's how it all gets fixed, here's everything we're looking at, everything we're changing. Because without a document, I can only remember 3 things, and I write them down. You've got to remember about 100 things.
Well,
one's going to be missed.
I'll jump in here because you were bringing up the audit thing. So basically, I just want to point out, so when I first started Tony, so for decades, the financial piece, the audit committee and finance was kind of put together. So one of the first things we did was break those out because they're 2 separate animals. So there's now a separate, distinct audit committee separate from the budget piece. So that's been a big change. And then we have been talking about for a while is doing an internal, like firm like Siebert, but back to the point of there's not a lot of these firms. So we did put it out to bid basically to do it like an internal audit, like a consultant arm of an accounting firm. But we have realized that that's,
Cost prohibitive.
It's cost prohibitive. So we did put that out to bid.
The only bidder was the one that had.
Exactly.
Yeah, and audit is, good. That's one part of it. We're talking about a lot of process changes here, and I think Paul's put a lot in.
Yeah.
And I think the point is, let's actually enumerate.
We do have a report, and again, it was done by TMS late last fall, I think.
Yeah.
And again, it does break out, by buckets. These are the things that we've identified that need attention, that we're going to work on, that we're going to correct. So
And we've been updating that along the way as we've made further changes to Tyler.
And at our last meeting, we that was part of the review, we did actually have a review of this, this proposal, which was probably 20% more than what they originally quoted, but we had come to a decision to say, okay, these are the 10 areas that they had bid out. Basically, we would say, okay, you already have TMS in place, so the takeaway from that, the on subcommittee met and said, okay, if there's things within these areas, if there's say 5 things that the consultant's already doing, they would put together a report covering that. If there's areas that they can't cover, then we go back to bid to say, okay, are these 5 things that they can't cover, prepare a report? Then you have the CBID, or the company that will come back in and put it back out to bid basically for those areas they can't cover.
Well, let me suggest 2 deliverables that would, help really increase your yes count, both here and at town meeting. One would be, let's see the last monthly financials that you sent to the school committee so we can understand what kind of reporting and review is being done. And the second would be, let's see the report of, here's what we investigated, the things we found, what we're changing, what we're doing going forward. I think if you had those 2 things.
We can easily do that. If you've seen from Eunice yourself a typical year-to-date report, with either summary or full detail, that's what they are receiving.
And that would be good to see.
That's exactly.
Let's see the actual report. And, if you're doing it already, just send the last one that you did. That should be straightforward. And it sounds like you may have already done an investigation and report on what you're doing. Let's see that too.
do you want that submitted through the town administrator? Well, who is the point of contact, if you will, or submission?
I think you can submit it to me and I'll distribute it to the committee.
But with the disclaimer that would be something from a consultant. There could be a potential, if we have something within that original scope, that this could, not TMS, but the other.
I think he's talking about something. He's talking about what we've already, he wants to see what we've already done.
Okay.
I don't think he's talking.
Yeah, I mean, great if you have more stuff in the pipeline to do, but let's see what you've done already and see if that's sufficient. I think, just for myself, I think on the one hand, I'm more alarmed by, it sounds like there was a lot more issues than I realized, and on the other hand, I'm pleased that you identified them, and it sounds like that you're working to fix them, and that's all good. And so I
typically goes into places that have been struggling, or we're mentoring new people transitioning, somebody new coming into the business. I've done a lot of mentoring myself of new business administrators, but in a situation like this, we come in and my own experience over the years, I went into one community where they were short $1 million and they didn't want to admit it, and did that. And I said, I'm not going to jail for you. I went into my final community when I retired, and they had a state finance control board in place. Everybody from the state on down said, there was a legislative act of the Mass Legislature to borrow $2.5 million. And I got there and I said, where's your staff database? Huh? By the time I started in July, by the start of school in September, I saw they had $2.5 million more than they needed that year. I had to spend money, so the whole state didn't look bad. So the towns didn't look bad, and I had to put $1 million in E&D, which is what they should have had. And, so there's the good and the bad, and sometimes it just gets all mixed up. and you have to pull it back together again.
Yeah, and I'm pleased that you're doing that. And I think we, I guess, hopefully, in seeing, these documents, it'll give us confidence that things are on the right track. Obviously, with everything that's happened, there's a little concern. There's some concern with the budget going forward, and I think this will feed into the article on the feasibility study, where, this is a $45 million enterprise, the building project's a $350 million enterprise or something. There's going to be, we got to make sure we can walk before we run. I'll stop with that.
Ed.
Thanks. Thank you. So John gave you the business. That's most of my questions. But I'd like to dumb it down just so we can understand what the bottom line here. I think the 1.7% increase is a big euphemism, and we just want to straighten that out.
Yeah.
Am I correct in understanding that the 4.38% is the amount more you should have asked for last year so that your budget was squared? So you just misestimated, we paid you less than you needed, and all your E&D was lots of D, and now we're making up for it. Okay, so that all makes sense now, and I will stop looking for the 1.725 million that should have been figured in, because that's just a number it was a number we didn't have, and that's the whole problem.
You'll have it every year going forward. Or you should. If you don't see it, ask for it.
It'll be in there.
Thank you. And unfortunately, this is a song I've heard before. Sometimes things go sideways, and I'm really glad that we're working towards fixing it up. And to just put a finer point on what John was trying to say, this town, among the 5 communities, is the only one that has no experience with a Prop 2.5 override or exclusion.
We have experience, just didn't.
Well, we have with passing one, and so if that is definitely where we're going to go if you're going to do a building project. And so I don't speak for the committee on this, but just as my observation as a resident of the town, you're going to have a really tight ship when you ask for that money to get it. To get a positive vote in this town. And I understand it's going to get slurried with the vote from the other towns, but
that's why this work is critical.
Right, we would be
That's why we're trying to
delighted to help you in cleaning things up over the next couple of years.
I'll just make a comment based on the school is built for 1,000 kids, but I mean, you got a school that's 1,300 kids, but you got to remember the number of shops and trades that covers. I mean, this is important for all communities. You have the bulk side, you got HVAC, carpentry, plumbing, all that side of it. We also have, my daughter's in grade.
Very sorry.
A lot of other shops, like medical assisting, culinary, all this other stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that a lot of kids here, so that's increased. So I think those are needs that need to be met for certain towns. So I think, that's what a new school will do, is basically to do that.
I agree with you, and I want to separate that need from how the town of Burlington feels about their wallets. I think we care deeply about both.
That's what I was saying at our last
and we
meeting.
recognize that
We
need.
brought that up, that they did state you got to separate the budget process and what's going on right now, that personal views from what's actually going on with the MSBA. So if you look at Burlington High, it's the same thing. You got to separate your certain things. We're not going to go down that path, but I never know what we're talking. But the point being is you have to separate that from the need to build a new school that is a 60-year-old school. And I think that's something we need to do, because a lot of times you get limited MSBA stuff, open up to give you in the next topic, but that's something that needs to be, it's still a 60-year-old school.
Right. I would just say I think I agree with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long time, and I think this conversation has gone on, and
Excuse me? What?
His hand up.
You've had your hand up a long time, is that what you're saying?
I've had my hand raised for at least 15 minutes. and
Yeah.
I've been waiting a long time.
And we've gotten to the second person. Hold on, please. I would just say that I believe that building the trust within the community, so you have to make the sale that, yeah, we need it. I think that's an easy sell. I think the hard sell is that, we can manage $300 million building project, and that's a tough one for anybody. I think for the way that technical schools are set up, where you guys are kind of your own town, you don't have the benefit of having a town administrator and an assistant town administrator and a budget director and a finance department and people who deal with the bonding agencies all day. You don't have any of that. So you're already starting off behind the 8 ball. So the building the trust within the communities that we're ready for this is going to be it's a steep one.
That treasurer's position will be critical.
Yeah. Cheyenne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think several questions have not been addressed yet. What we have, focused on is what Burlington's contribution to Shawsheen is. However, we are 1/5 of Shawsheen's contribution. What are the other communities saying? Can you please answer that first? And I have more.
I do.
I didn't hear that. I heard what do the other
I think you
communities...
said, what are the other communities saying?
About the budget?
Yeah.
I'm trying to adjust this a little better. We have addressed what Burlington's concerns are towards Shawsheen. We are 1/5 of what Shawsheen's concerns are.
Yeah.
Can we address what the other communities have said? Can we hear about that?
I don't quite understand the question.
So I can answer this a little bit.
Chris.
So Cheyenne, so we have been in communication with a couple of the other communities, Wilmington in particular, that kind of spurred a lot of our background, reviewing the subcommittee meetings that they have had and conversations they had, and that has led to having some collaboration on questions that we then had that weren't answered from other communities that we had then sent along prior to our meeting and also had in conversation in our subcommittees. I think what you're getting at, and I, clarify I'm wrong, but we do need to have more collaboration between our 5 communities when it comes to budget and holding things accountable for money and where things are transpiring. I think this is moving, as we kind of think, in a more positive direction, but, much like wanting to move our budget process review up, or much earlier so we can have a much more say before we're well down the road. I think those types of ideas are the things that we in our district communities should be thinking about to really foster this change and building this trust and positive motivation forward.
Yeah, so again, just to piggyback off what Mr. Campbell said, so I know we took a lot of questions and a lot of heat with Wilmington. They ultimately voted 8-0 to move forward with the budget recommendation. We were in Tewksbury. I don't know what Tewksbury's Finance Committee vote was. I did not see the outcome of that. Our budget and the warrant article have both already been passed at Bedford Town Meeting. Bedford's already held its town meeting. They supported the budget. They supported their increase was 22 or 23%. They're in the same boat as Burlington. Their enrollment is going up significantly. So based on, yes, we've got a lot of tough questions. Yes, I understand why. We have some answers. We have to provide some answers about what's happened and what we're doing to fix these things. But what we're seeing is those committees are supporting the moving forward of this budget. I don't know if that necessarily addresses the excuse me, the exact question, but that's what we're seeing.
For the budget, I'm just saying, can we get feedback from everyone else before we make our final decision?
I don't think that's, I don't think that's necessarily appropriate. I think we have to vote on what we feel like. We do have some feedback from some towns, and he told us what the votes were, but we don't have a big combined finance committee. So I don't think we can, I'm not sure how you could make that work, Cheyenne.
I think Chris has a good point. I think down the road, because you're going into a project, I think it is good for collaborative, but I think each town has to make it, even though it's part of a regional, has to take into consideration how they vote, and that's not always can be how the other towns, with an MSBA project, like that, for feasibility study, a lot of times you have to vote. So I think that's a good point, but, individually, you still have to vote your own needs for each town.
Chris?
I think further, that's why we requested to have our school committee members at the subcommittee meeting as well as here tonight. And again, thank you for being here, but so that we could have those open and honest conversations within the subcommittee, but also get feedback from our school committee members who are Burlington's representatives on that, who ultimately vote to endorse the budget and have been along in the process as well.
I agree that we have to have, our own decision one way or the other. But without feedback from our community, we are kind of at a loss.
Thank you.
So,
Frank?
Do you dare take any more questions?
Good luck. Yeah.
You
Go
do.
ahead.
You're a brave man.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, do we have a subcommittee vote on this?
We did 4-0.
4-0. Okay. First
One
question.
absent.
All right, second question, on the problems of the past, it manifests itself in many ways. It's kind of the result of a lot of bad processes or missing accountability, checks and balances, but when all is said and done, you had this overrun. You've put things in place through apparently feedback, input, reviews, audits, and whatnot for corrective actions. It may or may not be complete. To John's point, not nearly as bad, I don't think, but we also, when we had a major change in the finance department, through the way the old people did it and the new people came on board, we had a pretty big mismatch, and we were missing a lot of really important information and processes. We fixed all that. We understand that. What I want to know is this. For the budget that you've proposed, forget about all the processes to guard it and execute it correctly for just a second. Let's say we get all that straightened out. For the budget that's proposed, the question here is, how confident are we that the budget reflects the actual operating needs of the school as opposed to something that's not correct, under or over? How good a budget are you presenting? How you manage that in the next fiscal year is a whole nother ball game, and we're assuming you do it better. So that's the first question. Do we believe that this budget has been responsibly built and reflects enough information that we can vote on it? And I don't know how the committee feels about that or not. I honestly can't tell. I have no reason to think that the budget that you built, other than this wacky way that you handled offsets, is wrong. And it is an increase, and you've explained the increase. So, I'm looking for a sense of how strong is the conviction of the subcommittee and of yourselves that the budget is actually a good budget? Because that's what we need to vote on tonight. How you manage it, that's a whole nother issue, which we'll get to, I think, John, and we're getting to it, and it needs to be managed better. That's my first question. Whoever wants to speak on that can. And two other simple things that, to me, are pretty important. Our allocate...
To your first point, after initial review, it seemed...
Cheyenne, we're going to go through the subcommittee chair. Cheyenne, we need to go through the subcommittee chair. Then you can add.
So let's take that much, all right? That's enough of a bite. Yeah. Where are we at on this thing?
Yeah, I'm happy to start with that one. So, I'm really pleased with the group we have in the education subcommittee. We do take it seriously. We do ask line item by line item and go through to the point of, sometimes people think it might be a little too thorough, but literally going through, asking it. We also, or at least my own practice, comparing, and I have their FY26 budget in front of me right here. We have our FY27, going back and looking at how things change over the year. I think the budget that's presented in front of us does show some drastic differences, which can build confidence. One in particular just talks about how they're tracking the alignment of their staffing, and one of them was just showing a decrease in the dean of students that had been in the past year, and they just couldn't have it, and they couldn't find it, they don't need it anymore, and being transparent about that. I think the notes within the budget itself while may add questions, leads to that of, okay, here's where they're trying to show accountability in the streamlined process through this budget. The last one, if you look on FY26, there's some great, beautiful graphs, but there aren't actually the specific information that you're going to get out of this budget this year and in this process.
In other words, you'd like to see more?
No, we are seeing more detail,
In the
better
27
organization,
budget.
better organization of like PD all under PD, putting the employees with their stipends, their step increases all together. And actually, it's getting, to be honest, a little bit more similar to what we're used to with the Burlington budgets. But seeing progress from last year just to this year, it's not just in the presentation and what we're hearing, but just in the documents themselves.
Yeah, I don't know how you could build a budget without that kind of breakdown of salary, so hopefully that's been done. Okay, well, I'll ask my other question, but I want to get this sort of rounded up. I don't even know if the committee wants to vote on this tonight. You want to table it? I don't know what would bring back, other than to review some information.
Well, I think that additional information would
Be
help
helpful.
inform my vote personally.
So you think probably we should try to get that, table this, bring it back?
I think so.
That's kind of where you're going. I have no problem with that. I mean, we got enough time. Either you've got the right information to support the budget you built, or it's still questionable. I mean, that's the worry here, is we're voting, I mean, to vote on a budget that you don't have a breakdown of who the employees are, what steps they're at, what stipends.
That is in there.
Right, I know that. What I'm saying is, it's the only way you can get the...
We're voting on a budget with insubstantial information. I think we need to gather more.
All right, maybe we should come back with another, we get to review some more, the subcommittee can talk to us if you want. I want to ask just two other things that are not so budgety, that I think are important. Who sets the allocation of how many students we can send? What sets our allocation?
That's spelled out in the admissions policy.
The admissions policy?
Yeah.
Is it based on our head count, our demographic?
That was set, I want to say about 10 years ago, by a vote of the Shawsheen School Committee. I do not have, I've tried to research the background information, but what went into that, I don't know.
As a point of sort of information I would like at some point, I'd like us to be able to revisit what sets our allocation, because it sounds like it's lower than what we would like.
But everybody wants more seats.
I know that, but a lot of people have a lot more seats than we do.
Yep.
Right? I know it's reflected in what we pay. You pay for what you get, but, so I'm curious about that. And the other thing I really want to know about is, for your proposal, we're going to hopefully fund this MSBA architect monies and whatnot, and build a proposal to build a school. Are you thinking in terms of a bigger school?
We haven't got that far yet.
I see.
So again, I think part of this process, and I think we may be getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but part of this feasibility study is to inform us about costs.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to vote on the warrant.
Right.
I'm just curious if in some of the thinking here, we can get a better handle on how big this facility really needs to be.
MSBA's enrollment projection for us goes from 1,300 to 1,650. Now, again,
That's the increase from where you are to
we're at 13, so they're
Right.
saying, we will fund a renovated or new facility.
up to 1650.
Up to 1650.
Okay, all right.
But again, cost per square foot, I mean, there's no way we're going to get a $600 or $650 million project through sending communities. So we have to look at what does it cost us per square foot. We don't have the expertise to do that. We need the money to pay for the study, to have the architects and the project managers come in and say,
All right.
this is what the scope
I
of the
get all that. Somehow or other, it seems like it would be helpful to me as a member of this committee and as a member of the community that we could get a better allocation, either by the school being built bigger or
that's
getting a better
possibility.
allocation, because I think
So I would just
it's
caution.
important to us.
That can also go both ways. So if we look at, based on the number of students enrolled or the number of students in 8th grade across our districts, Burlington's percentage could also go down. So you may not gain seats, you may lose seats if we go and look at what
That goes to
model
the
is.
question of how you decide, of whatever students you've got, how many seats they could get in a vote. All right, and I think that's got not so much to do with whether our enrollments are increasing, declining, has a lot to do with our demographic and the wants of that existing demographic.
So I think
and
there's
what
two.
I'm paying for.
There's a formula on it. There's a number of ways to do it. You can do it on students that apply, you can do it on students that enroll with us, you can do it on number of eighth graders in
Yeah.
each district.
I'd like to know more about that when we get a little further down the line with this MSB investigation. I would support tabling the budget for a session.
So, Mr. Chair, can I just make a comment? And this is my humble opinion here. The documents that were requested are more about our budget tracking and management. And I'm just going to ask the question, what does that have to do with approving the FY27 budget? And maybe it's a trust piece, but I'm just going to throw that out there.
We can answer that.
Yeah, that's an easy one. I mean, it's twofold. One, quite frankly, it's a point of leverage. If we don't vote now, that helps force the issue of getting the actual information we need and making sure that it's actually good. That, quite frankly, that's probably 80% of it. The other 20% is it will help increase confidence that the budget that, to Frank's question, it'll increase confidence that the budget you created actually has validity. There's, Paul mentioned a lot of good things that would improve the validity of the budget, the database with all the salaries and steps and so forth. If that wasn't there, I'd say, well, how do you even know your salary number is correct?
It's in the budget book itself, so you guys have that data.
I understand that, but the point is, if you didn't have an employee database, I really wonder how you came up with that number last year, quite frankly. Right?
We did. It just didn't exist to the level of detail of what Paul had brought in.
Yeah, you got to have that though. Yeah. That's really the point. Is that you're I don't want to get too cavalier, but it feels a little bit more like you're shooting from the hip last year, in that if you don't have that level of detail, how are you accurately creating a budget? And, it may have accidentally been close, but apparently accidentally it was missing some things too, right? So, we want to have confidence that the process is in place so that the budget constructed, you don't have another screwy offset thing where, we're arguing about where the missing 3% go or whatever. That is to build that confidence that it actually is valid. Otherwise, I would have to vote no at this point, because I don't have that confidence without seeing a little more.
We have a meeting next week, right?
Yeah.
No.
That's school vacation?
No, school vacation's not next week. School vacation's the following.
Yeah, we do have yes, we do.
So, given that we've hammered this to death, getting some more numbers, maybe most, if not all of which exist, gives people not on the subcommittee a chance to take a look at that and firm up how they want to vote. That's why I feel like tabling this is sort of a no harm, no foul.
Yeah.
Just need somebody to make that motion.
I make a motion that we table the budget till the time certain next.
Is a week enough time, I guess, is the question, or?
If you can get it to us quickly.
We have the reports.
He's saying the budget book is actually got, your question is, how did you get the numbers in the budget book, actually?
Yeah, I see the budget book. That's not, I've had two specific things I've asked for. I would need to see those too.
Yeah. Can you do that?
We can get you those two things. That's not a problem.
All right. And,
do you meet next Wednesday? Again, I've got like a bajillion meetings on my calendar, so it's next Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
I forget what else is on.
We can put you first.
Is there a full review of other communities in the budget? We didn't see that?
I didn't understand a thing that you just asked for.
You have notes on
I mean, I have information that we've. Sorry, go ahead, Cheyenne.
Can you put together a performance review of the other communities in the region so that we can get consensus of what we're voting for?
I think we have to vote on our own
And again, I just reported out on that. Wilmington voted 8-0 to support it. It's passed in Bedford at both the town meeting and the finance committee.
Cheyenne, please, he's answering. Yes.
I mean, Bill Ricka had a split vote. It was 6-5. The finance committee did not support our budget proposal in Bill Ricka. It's going before the select board, I believe, next week or the week after. But so far, I believe three communities have come out. Two I know were unanimous. The other one I'm not sure about. Burlington would be the fourth one, and then Bill Ricka, like I said, it was a split vote. It came down to the chair. The chair voted that he had some questions that he didn't feel comfortable with. So that was the one. It's not a no vote. It's just they're not supporting it when it's presented at town meeting.
I'm not saying we're no vote there, but we have to know why they said no. Thank you.
So I'll second Frank's motion.
So we have a motion to table this until
Next week.
Time certain next week.
time
talk
certain
about
next
it.
Wednesday.
Sort of contingent on enough
15,
information,
text it.
additional information that John has indicated.
I mean,
Fair enough?
Do we have, yeah. Discussion.
Well, I looked up the minutes of some of the meetings from the other communities, and I think that might help. So I'll try to collate those and send them out as well, because I think our concerns were very, very similar.
Yeah, well, not to put too fine a point on it, but to Cheyenne's question, well, what did everybody else have to say? My expectation is they're not going to vary widely in the same questions that everybody's asking, including, here tonight. So, yeah, that would be great if we could see that, sure.
Very thoughtful.
sorry, one.
Why not?
Probably obvious, but Shawsheen has to operate next year. They need a budget of some number. Somehow, we have to get to the point where it moves forward, with or without our votes, to town meeting.
Doesn't have to be this budget, though.
Well, if...
You
okay,
can't
so
do line item vetoes. It's a
No, I
regional
understand.
budget with an assessment.
We
So
could
it's a yes
argue
or
it
no.
should be $1 million less or $1 million more, right?
We-
May I ask a question as well? We sat with Mr. Campbell as the school committee and superintendent and Paul, and went through this very thoroughly, so I feel like with their help, there should be a bit of understanding that this wasn't something that was just thrown together. Like, we spent hours going through it, and I feel that they are confident in it. We certainly answered many, many questions for them. Do you think it's something that they could answer for you? I mean, the documentation that you're asking for is fine, but to say, well, how did you get to this number? They asked us all of those questions, and we have already answered. So part of your committee has that confidence in it. So is that something you would talk to them about and be able to be more confident about it?
No, I'm encouraged that they went through the details, and I think that's good. But I would like to see two things that they didn't discuss is let's see monthly financials that the school committee reviewed last month, and let's see the report on the investigation of what went wrong, what you're changing, and how it won't happen again. Those two things were not covered by the subcommittee. Those are the things that will give me confidence that we're probably on the right track and we have a sound basis to have developed the budget.
I think
so. While the
And those are agreed to.
yes, right. So
got it.
that what I'm
Let's do
answering
that.
your question. That's why I can't just say I'm glad the subcommittee said yes.
And that's fine. We can, obviously, the superintendent would be happy to give that to you, but I think it's unfair to say, well, you could have just thrown this together. We went through with the subcommittee very thoroughly.
No, I understand a lot of effort went into it, and I don't mean to belittle that. I'm just concerned that without the basis, without this sound foundation, you can't build a sound budget. So while the individual numbers could look very good, they may be based on unsound assumptions, and that's what I'm trying to validate here with this excerpt.
Right, I think the point would be that the budget from last year had just as many hours and just as much work. And it was incorrect because you had wrong assumption and a wrong basis. So we want to feel comfortable that those things have been fixed and we won't run into that.
We're not denying the work you've done, and, the trouble you've gone through. We're a company to review it. That's all.
I understand that.
Deb, did you have a-
Subcommittee who very thoroughly reviewed it, so I just don't want that to be lost in translation.
Not at all.
That it's not a.
That's why I ask questions. And we try to ask questions that are, to understand what we don't understand. If you could explain it to us, we'd be happy to listen to you.
Deb, did you have a comment?
I do. Agreed. There was a lot of work that went into the budget. We did review it. We didn't review every single line item. And I think one of the things that I commented about was it was kind of hard for me to sort of say, I still don't understand the 4%, 6%. I'm going to have somebody else on the committee. I wrote down all the numbers. I can't do the math. And I'm an accountant. So for me to not be able to, there was a lot of reclassing of things. So while everything sort of didn't change huge numbers in total, it was really, I had a difficult time following it. And I think one of the things we talked about that would be helpful is sort of knowing where we shook out last year. And I know the audit's not completely done, but at least it sort of gives you a general idea. Are we in the right track? When you look at these budget numbers compared to where we actually ended up last year, I think that would have been helpful. And so maybe to John's point, that would be like another data point that sort of helps us make it a little more.
That's actually something we talked about, because I'm on the budget subcommittee. That's something we talked about. 2 takeaways. 4 was basically something for TMS to put together, was actually like what changes were made for the fiscal year 27 budget and what would be done for the fiscal year 28.
Yeah.
That was one thing. Another thing to mention, if you talk about schools, like, 70% of your overhead is another thing that I think would be helpful, which I think was in past years, is having an FTE count in the detail to show you what that is.
Yes,
So if you're
that was
looking,
definitely in last year's, and it wasn't in this year's. So I think,
knowing that if you looked at the prior year budget in detail for, like I said, at least 15 shops, and you see basically what that FTE count is, you can kind of detail it based on the notes, and people can ask questions. If it's going up, and you'll see more transparency with that, like to Tony's point and to Paul's point about more granular. That should be in future years, but put it on the table. I mean, when you make changes like this, and a lot of changes have been required for a number of years, in that year you make those changes, it's really hard to and it's like, and I think to dovetail off that, a lot of the comments have been brought up in other towns. Some of them are, a lot of them are valid, and I think that's something, basically it's been addressed by other towns, and it's not like superintendent or the school committee are saying, no, we don't disagree with you. We're saying, we're working to make it better to go forward. And, you can't, I think that's, many people commented at the last meeting saying, you got to separate the MSBA process from this. I mean, they are intertwined, but, you get one crack at the apple, not one crack. My point is like, you got to take the opportunity you get. And at the end of the day, it's a 60-year-old school, and you got to basically do something. So now, if the opportunity's open, we got to make that opportunity and also deal with the other stuff that's going on. So I get the trust thing. I'm not disagreeing with that. We have to build trust. That's part of the process. When you go to the MSB, you've seen it with Fox Hill, you've seen others. Every school you have that, but we got to separate the two. And I'm going to beat that into the ground. Is basically, this is something we're going to fix and do, but the MSB we also have to do at the same time. So it's got to be.
And we do, it's not in this book, I do have an FTE comparison if that's something that the committee would like to see. I can tell you in 25, we had 231 full-time employees, 7 part-time. In 26, we had 231 full-time employees, 7 part-time, and then 1.2 treasurer. And in FY27, we're going to have 232 full-time employees, 6 part-time employees, and a 0.2 treasurer. So we've been consistent. We're not increasing our FTE count. We did lose some grant funding, which we had to pick up in our budget, which is part of that increase. I'm more than happy to share that as well. We don't have all of the compiled end-of-year comparisons. That is still a work in progress. That's part of the E&D filing. That'll be part of our audit for FY25. That's not really something that we have. That's not something that we're going to be able to produce before next week. The FTE report, the TMS report, and the monthly finance report, I could probably have those things to you tomorrow. Yes, I will have them to you tomorrow. Yes.
Great.
Could I summarize?
Sure.
I will be very brief. I just want to say that everything that's been said can be true at the same time, and I think we're all here because we care about the school and the community. So I think having that extra documentation will be helpful. It would be nice to think we could be more helpful to you, understanding what the process is. And I think that we could approve, with kind of a signing statement that we approve this budget with the understanding that the accounting is going to be better. But I think we're going to end up approving it because we want the operations to go forward. And I just want everyone to understand that the Shawsheen School and everyone who works with it has some natural consequences if they've budgeted poorly, because they've got to make up the difference the same way that they ended up having to make up the difference last year. So, I think this can work out, and it'll work out faster and better with transparency. So, thank you.
All right. So we're voting to postpone. Cheyenne.
Actually, no. Yeah, right.
What?
We're voting on that.
Yes, Cheyenne?
We're going to postpone
Yes.
this budget.
Yes.
I vote to postpone.
Chris Campbell.
Yes.
Chris Delaney.
Yes.
Mike Hardy.
Yes.
John Eiler.
Yes.
Deb McCarthy. Frank Monaco.
Yes,
Steve Moran.
is he still here?
He's gone.
We lost, okay. Rob Newfield.
So missing.
Paul Noonan.
Yes.
Ed Parsons.
Yes.
Rick Rosso.
Yes.
Roger Riggs.
Yes.
David Tate.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 13-0-0. Article 19, feasibility study. This would come from free cash. And it's our portion of the cost of a feasibility study.
Yeah, is there a number on that?
Yes, there is. $165,737.
Yes. That's what I have. So,
again, we're trying to raise just under $1.5 million to pay for feasibility study. We have been accepted into the MSBA feasibility period. We've done all of the reports. We've submitted all the information. MSBA has given us an enrollment projection. We've done all of the legwork, research, whatever you want to call it. The last hurdle we have here is we have to find funding to pay for the feasibility study. We have until May 28th to have all of that finalized. In full disclosure, we are still pursuing our E&D certification. I don't want to speak for the committee, but the recommendation that I'll make, and I think that they intend to support, is whatever we can take from the E&D certification to offset this cost, we will. But we can't actually predict what those numbers will look like until E&D is certified. So we're asking to fund the full amount. Hopefully E&D gets certified the next few days, the next week. We've been saying that for a few weeks now. And again, we could potentially come back and say, we're only asking for half that amount. We may be able to come back, fingers crossed, and say, we have enough money in E&D to take care of this ourselves. We'll vote to amend our budget and move the money into the stabilization fund that way. But this is kind of our plan B or our contingency if that doesn't get certified, or if it doesn't get certified high enough to pay for the whole feasibility study. So that's our ask.
So this would be a not to exceed number?
Not to exceed, yep.
Okay. Subcommittee?
We didn't have this.
Okay.
You had this on regional schools. This was assigned to us.
Okay.
So we had asked a question about it, but.
Okay. Are there questions? Discussion?
I have a few, not surprisingly.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry to be the bad guy here.
You're not the bad guy.
Somebody's got to do it. So let me start with each one. What E&D do you think you have that you expect to be certified?
I am not going to make a projection on that because for 2 years we gave money back to ascending communities because we exceeded our 5%. But then last year we planned to use it as part of our budget and it didn't get certified at the amount that we thought it was going to. I'm not making predictions on E&D. I'm waiting until we have the certification at this point.
Okay, that's probably the smart answer. All right, and if I understand you correctly, if E&D ends up being, say, 1.5 million, would your plan be that you would use the E&D for the 1.5 million here?
That would be my recommendation to the school committee. Again, it's ultimately their vote as to whether they want, what they want to do with that.
Would that imply then that you would not take any money from the communities for that?
Again, that would be my if we have the money, my recommendation would be for us to pay for it out of E&D.
Okay. And that all makes sense.
And I believe there's also an opportunity to, as part of the review of feasibility study, I have a number of information wrong, but I think you can get some money back from the state as well as part of the feasibility study.
That's probably.
Yeah, I think that's a future reimbursement that then gets applied to the project if you move forward with it.
It gets folded into the
Same
project.
percentage.
Yeah. My preference again on this would be to hold it till next week. And since all the same information, and for all the same reasons, goes into my thinking on this as it did on the operating budget. So I won't repeat all that.
Question, Roger.
I guess just a comment about using E&D, I guess through you to the school committee. What is their policy recommendation with respect to holding reserves in E&D? I mean, I would be troubled if you spent it all.
Yeah, I mean, again, typically we do hold it in reserve. I think this is another one of those. This is kind of a special circumstance. This is a one-time thing where we need to, I mean, if we don't fund this, we don't move forward with MSBA, we're back to the end of the line. We have to go through the whole process and hopefully get accepted back into the pipeline again. So I mean, because of that, I think the recommendation would be if we need to spend the majority of it or all of it, I think we do.
So, I'm sorry.
Just follow up on that. I'm trying to think of some way in which, the motion or the thing that we approve is somehow proportional to that answer, but I know that's not really possible. So I'm sure the best we can do is not to exceed based on the current estimate, and then with the trust that the number will actually not either work itself out, either a better number will show up before town meeting on May 11th or 13th or something, or
It stays where it is.
it stays where it is. And just one more commentary. I think we should probably go ahead and vote this. I mean, I know that there's a lot of overlapping issues, but to me, this is pretty clearly something that's got to move forward.
Frank?
Yeah, John, I think I understand your thinking, and I don't have a problem with it, but I don't really see how anything we're going to find out about the operating budget for '27, how it was constructed and getting it accurate and all of that, is going to have any bearing on the money they need to do this study. They absolutely need the money.
It goes to validating the ability to manage this size project. It will help ensure that those processes are in place.
I mean, but to rebut that these are like, if you look at a lot of other projects, you're talking like 6 years out. I'm not saying, I don't disagree with you, but that's one of the things I wanted to point out is like, I get people's reservations and I don't disagree, but this is like any of these projects, you have to separate to, like what you're touching on, is you have to separate that. So I think it's like I mean, what would you say, like probably 6 years before you got to go through the whole MSBA process. You're in there, like they go through that whole like grinder.
Well, I think you're 2 years from asking for $300 million.
It's 18 to 24 months for a feasibility study, depending upon when they get started and in the scale of it and the number of options that we ask them to do.
Can I sort of finish my thought, John? I understand, I do. I don't equate the concern of trust for the budget to trusting them to get a building committee together to finance the study and go do a year plus worth of work to figure out what they're going to build. They need to do that. And I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, but at town meeting, you will know how much money you might have as an offset by when.
as soon as E&D gets certified.
But what's sort of an upper bound of when that would be, do you know? Is May a likely time to know?
I hope so.
Hopefully.
I mean,
All right, so-
last year it was
Hopefully sooner than
mid-June,
that.
but again, we have a different
So
group. that's
assuming
working
it
on
doesn't happen, then we fund from free cash this amount so they can get their building committee going, they can commit, get an architectural firm on board and get going. They need to do that. If in fact some offset money comes through, we can amend it at town meeting. And I don't see anything to be gained. I don't care if you delay it or not, but I don't think there's anything that's going to be gained waiting another week to vote this. So I'll go either way. I would not vote to table this one.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just to follow up, I mean, if this moves forward into the next stage of this and we get to the feasibility study, where, you have to hire an owner's project manager, you have to hire a design firm, you have to, so again, we're
just
going
done
to
this
have.
twice.
Oh, you got, I'm sorry,
Right.
I'm preaching to the choir.
We've got 3 straight years of doing this.
So again, you're gonna have a bunch of experts that are coming together on this as well. So it's not just up to the district and the business manager and our business office to navigate this. We're gonna have a lot of people that do this day in and day out, helping us with the process as well. So,
And the MSPA breathing down your neck.
yeah, they're pretty strict, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. As Frank mentioned, we just went through this with Burlington High School, and I think you know how that ended up. And that's
Fox
not
Hill.
and that's not where I want this to end up. And I don't want to belabor this too much, but the auditors were experts in their field, and here we are. Okay, so my trust in experts is as much as I can validate. Experts aren't always so expert. Oftentimes they are. I think we have pretty good expertise on this committee in understanding things, and I'll trust my judgment before theirs if they can't verify it. So I think the point is I need to be comfortable that the processes are described reasonably enough that I feel comfortable that they're going to be in place so that they can both manage an operating budget and manage a building project. Because in the end, the thing I don't want to hear is we have a great OPM and he's watching the financials. Because I know even in our project, people on the school committee were finding things that the OPM wasn't and weren't managing properly. And not that they were doing a bad job, but as soon as you trust the experts and don't overlook what they're doing, that's when things start going downhill. Not because someone's malicious, but just because they aren't paying attention to all the same things. So I want to be comfortable that the school committee and that the administration is capable of managing this project with the OPM's help, as opposed to the OPM's going to deal with it.
And that wasn't my intent, so if it...
Yeah, no, and I understand that.
Sorry.
But that's where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Mr. I was just wondering,
Chris.
I think we should trust the experts and evaluate. From our side, we are the ways we need to take care of it. It's our job to tell the experts what our opinions are. But it's also our job to take experts' opinions.
Well,
You can't ignore them.
Sure.
okay.
Chris?
So, I mean, this is a related, unrelated question, but I think it's important we have the warrant article pass what we want to do, but when it comes to the actual assessment of the building itself and what number Burlington will have to vote on, we'll have a number for that year. Is that calculated over the past 3 years of enrollment? Because our enrollment is changing and is going up. And what I'm just wondering is, over the course of this, we're going to vote on a fixed number that we are going to allocate as a town, either vote it up or vote it down. How is that number going to come to place on where the enrollment has been and then knowing that it may change over the course of the building of the project.
My understanding is it'd be based on the regional agreement.
Yep.
So, again, talking to other vocational superintendents that have gone through this, it is a one-day district-wide vote.
Yep.
It's a majority, if a majority of the voters that turn out vote for the project, all 5 of the towns are on the hook for it. And what would end up happening is those assessments are gonna morph, change, evolve, whatever you want to say, over time. So when we start the project, if Burlington has 11% of the kids, the expectation in year 1 was you pay 11% of the cost for that year. If 5 or 10 years into it, Burlington has 20% of the students enrolled, in that year, Burlington's going to pay 20%. If we get to the 25th or 26th year, Burlington's enrollment's down to 5%, whatever you have to pay. So it's going to vary from year to year. It's not a fixed dollar amount.
Also, if I might point out, the regional agreement has a different set of rules for capital improvements
yes.
versus operational ones.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they are.
Capital requires every community to contribute at least 10%.
Right, but I don't know that there's a big factor of enrollment.
Enrollment plays in from there. So basically, everybody's assessed their 10%. Then those students are backed out of the enrollment, and then the number that's left is split up based on what's left. Yeah.
Annually?
We're getting...
Sorry, what?
Annually?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it will bounce around every year. I don't think there's any averaging.
That's why I'm just,
Yeah.
like, how do we do that from a budgeting?
Yeah, it's
Well,
very
that's
hard. It's an open-ended liability in some ways.
Right. That's separate from funding the feasibility study.
Right.
It is.
That's
but
all
it
about...
will eventually come up in this conversation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ed?
I move that we add the regional agreement to the list of documents that we need for next week so we can understand what our contribution to the capital is and how it would evolve with enrollment. And also to delay till next week because we're going to be in a better mood next week.
Rich says it's on the
website. Okay, good.
I can send it as part of the...
I'll second that.
If you just send a link, that would be fine. Yeah.
All right, so we'll do them both. I'll second that. So we still got to vote on, we have to vote on both of these?
Next week. Yeah.
Well, you have to vote to postpone that.
Right.
If we want to just...
Okay, so we got to vote on this, okay. I'll just make a, before I vote, I'll vote in favor of that because I don't see any problem with it. But no matter how you slice the pie here, you're talking about a $300 million school or something, right? And it's going to be split up, we're going to get at least 10% of that from the sounds of it, in terms of debt.
Well, MSBA is you're going to take MSBA's contribution out of that as well.
All right, but you know what, the point I'm trying to make is, we're going to finance this with a bond.
Yes.
Well, yes, but we could go through town meeting versus the townwide vote, depending on what our chair is.
Whether there's a debt exclusion or not remains to be seen, so we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Until we know what the size of the bill is and whether or not it needs a debt exclusion, we don't have a clue on, what's going to be brought forward. And we're not going to have any idea about that, honestly, whatsoever, until we get through the study.
Yep.
So I have no problem waiting a week to vote on whether we should fund the study or not, for various other reasons.
And to Tony's point, you're not going to know basically if you have the MSBA if it's a $400 million.
Yeah, we're way ahead of ourselves there.
Yeah, but I think we know how these things go. If you fund a feasibility study, you've set the train in motion, a lot of stuff is going to happen. And to pretend we can stop at any moment easily is a false statement. And I think we also know, look, we know it's going to be $300 to $400 million. We know it's probably going to be 1/3 MSBA reimbursement.
Maybe.
Just the round numbers here, right?
So we're looking at a couple $100 million.
We know we're going to be 10 to 20%. So we know it's going to end up being
10 or
20 to $30 million.
Yes, yeah, and we know that means debt exclusion. So we know a lot of stuff is very likely to be true. So I know we don't know it, but it's likely.
If you could handle it, Mr. Chairman, just to make an important...
10% of $300 million and
Cheyenne, please, Cheyenne.
I will not...
You have to raise your hand.
And be called.
Frank.
I would suggest that the reason to, in my mind, the reason to not vote for the
feasibility study.
The $165,000 is because you really don't think you want to go ahead with a new vote with a debt exclusion, with our chunk being $20, $30 million, that you just don't think that's what you want to do. Otherwise, you have to do this study, and we will fund this thing, but I have no problem waiting a week to get more assurances, read the fine print, blah, blah, blah. That's where my mind is at.
But I think that's the key thing is like, I get the piece, like the trying with, I'm not disagreeing with you, but that's why I'm saying they're two different, they're tied, but they're two different paths. That's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, okay. I've said enough. Thank you.
I don't think we can add any more to this discussion. We should just vote.
Right.
Motion in a second.
To postpone.
Postpone until next week, essentially.
Yeah.
Cheyenne.
Is he on mute?
Cheyenne, are you there?
Yeah, motion to postpone.
Yes, we're voting on it. Is that a yes?
Is that a motion to postpone?
We already had the motion in a second. The vote is on whether we're postponing to next week.
I'm voting yes to postpone.
Thank you. Chris Campbell.
No.
Chris Delaney.
No.
Mike Hardy.
Yes.
John Eiler.
Yes.
Deb McCarthy.
No.
Frank Monaco.
Yes.
Steve's still gone. Rob Neufeld still gone. Okay. Paul Noonan.
No.
Ed Parsons.
Yes.
This is big, Ed.
I don't understand it.
Rick Grasso.
Nope.
Roger Riggs.
No.
David Tate.
No.
Chair votes no. 5-8-0. So
Can I move the question?
Second.
let's move on.
Right, to the 165.
To a vote for the $165,737 for the feasibility study for Shawsheen.
From free cash.
From free cash. Cheyenne.
Yes to the feasibility study. Thank you.
Chris Campbell.
Yes.
Chris Delaney.
Yes.
Mike Hardy.
Yes.
John Eiler.
No.
Deb McCarthy.
Yes.
Frank Monaco.
Yes.
Paul Noonan.
Yes.
Ed Parsons.
Yes.
Rick Grasso.
Yes.
Roger Riggs.
Yes.
David Tate.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. That should be 1, 2, 12, 6, 7, 8, 12, 1, 0.
This is a good track record. It's 10:30.
All right. Thank you.
Same time next week, sir, 7
Same
p.m.?
time next week, we'll put you on first.
Put you on.
I appreciate that, thank you.
You've been very patient.
We can at least give you that.
I'll take it, sure. We've got it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You'll be out of here by 10 o'clock next week, guaranteed.
Oh, we
Dude, if I were him, I'd put them all off.
John, you can buy him off of the one Budweiser. He's good. All right, Essex Tech.
Things to do, huh?
No, we have
Patrick, you ready? Get your coffee?
for 2 hours too.
Yeah, just seltzer at this hour.
You sure that's what's in there?
Well, whiskey.
I want to know what's in Denisio's cup. Essex Tech. The number we have is $125,000. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah, that's a placeholder. We currently have 2 students at Essex Tech, a 9th grader and a 10th grader, and we have 3 that have been accepted for next year. We had 13 applicants, 3 that were accepted, one that was accepted but then declined, and then we have 9 either waitlist or declined. So we're going to likely have 5 students there next year.
Yeah.
The tuition...
Excuse me. Hold on. We'll just wait till the room clears.
The
Go ahead.
timing of technical school acceptance is hard for when you're a non-member. It's much easier when you're a member district. It's based on a formula. So the timing, we don't know exactly how many kids are going to be there for next year, and the state hasn't set the rate for tuition, for non-resident tuition. But it will likely be about $25,000 a student, and that's where the 125 comes from.
Do I dare ask about their audit?
No.
Doug, you know better.
Did this subcommittee vote?
No.
No.
We did not, because it's just a straight number.
Yeah. Is there any discussion about this one? It's kind of just a bill we get. So this is kind of not to exceed, I mean, we don't expect it to be bigger than this. Mike?
So we get potentially 5 next year, and how does that compare to recent history?
Higher. We've had 2, so we had 1 and then 2, so this is higher. And really sorry, I can't speak for you, but what it comes down to is our tech students can only apply if there aren't things that they're interested within us or one of the other ones. Essex Tech also has quite the reputation, and as we see students go more towards tech schools, this isn't a surprise. This is something that Burlington Public Schools has advocated for us to advocate for, of more seats where we can, hence with Shawsheen. But yeah, it is an increase, a pretty big increase from where we have been in the past couple of years.
Okay.
Sorry.
Roger.
If the state raises the rate, it might go down to just 4 people, right? If they raise the rate from 25K apiece to 26K apiece, then maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we would,
it's a number.
if we couldn't pay for it, we'd either have to do a transfer or come back and ask for more money. We still got If there were only 4 kids, we would just close out the surplus.
Right, yeah. I didn't know whether there was enough reason to think that 5 was a good number and we ought to bump it as, partially. But I don't have any reason to believe that it should be a higher number or a lower number.
Yeah, so point of reference, last year, we estimated we'd have 3, and we only had 2. We had the same deal where someone turned it down after the deadline. It's a little harder for them. The same changes apply in the lottery system, apply to those to all tech schools, but we just don't happen to be a member of this one. So that's why it can be very late for us to find out someone's going or not going.
Okay. Anything else?
Move to approve?
Second.
Thank God. Cheyenne?
He raised his hand.
Is that a mute thing?
Yes? Do you have a question? Yes?
It's on mute. You're on mute.
You're on mute. Sorry.
Whatever that icon is in the corner.
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons? Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
Yes.
David Tate? Chair votes yes. 1300. Article 4, authorize revolving accounts.
We have one more, Doug, for Minuteman Tech.
I'm sorry, Minuteman Tech.
We have to vote 0.
Well, turns out we're gonna have to vote 40,000. We are gonna have 1 student there. Well, we currently have 1 student there that was accepted through the waitlist process at the end of the summer. So we own that student for the next 4 years there. So we got a budget for at least 1 tuition there. Now, Minuteman hadn't been taking out-of-district students for several years because they did a building projects, and the member towns had plenty of applications that they weren't accepting any non-resident students. It just so happened we got 1 this year, so.
So
You see it on the what do we call the checklist thing? The scorecard.
The cheat
You
sheet.
need to update.
It'll be
scorecard.
40,000 on there now.
40.
Okay.
Okay.
So again, that's not, the rate hasn't been set yet, but their rate this year, all in, including capital fee, is about 36,000-ish. So.
It's the Harvard. All right.
They just built a big new building.
It's the highest per pupil in the state.
Of course it is. Any questions? Yeah, David.
Just curious, if we have our own tech, why do we
So if our tech school doesn't offer a program that a student's interested in, they can apply as a non-member student or a non-resident student, they call it now, at other tech schools that do offer that program. And Minuteman typically it's like a robotics program or something like that, that they offer that, not a lot of other competition for that.
Essex, I think, is agricultural.
Yep. So the
Does
person
anyone-
that applied did go into a different program, the tech did.
Yeah, they wouldn't be allowed to go there. So what happens is they put an application in, the school decides whether they're accepting them or not, and they send what's called the Chapter 74 form to the sending school. So Dr. Conti gets a form. They verify that the program that they're applying for isn't offered at the school that we're a member of. They sign the form, and there's, the laws have changed a lot over the last 8 or 9 years, or even 6 years, to encourage more students into, sort of break down some of the barriers that were keeping kids out of tech schools.
John, this is not like an academic program or an athletic program?
We can't hear you, Cheyenne.
It's not an academic program.
It's an academic program?
No.
It's not an athletic program?
It's academic.
It's academic. Mike?
Do you know what?
Oh.
You know, like, what can we do as a community, further this project? Beyond, just like,
I can't.
what is, what is the last, extracurricular kind of thing?
Does anybody understand?
I don't think we understood your question. Can you be more concise?
Is there a way?
Can you be more concise about your question? I don't think we understood it, or I didn't understand it.
So my first question was this athletic or academic?
It can only be academic.
Can only be academic.
It's only academic. If it's academic, is there a way to provide room for extracurricular activities?
Wait, you mean at Minuteman?
They have extracurricular
So this is when they are able to apply as a non-member district, it has to be because they're showing interest in an academic strand that is not within our own tech school. So if we had a student that went to, let's say, Northeast Voc, or Minuteman tends to be the one, there has to be a strand that they're going for that Shawsheen does not offer. So it has nothing to do with extracurriculars, it's strictly academics.
Once they're there, they can participate in all the extracurricular activities. They're a full student there, so they go all day, every day, and they can participate.
I think my question requires more research, and I'll withdraw it for now.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you. I was just curious if we have any rationale for the almost $40,000. Is it higher teacher salaries, higher building expenses? Why is it so?
So part of it is a capital fee, which is specifically to pay for the debt service of the building, but that's only a few $1,000s of it. I think it's $3,800. I think it's around $3,800. You can pay an incremental for if a student's receiving special ed services, but their tuition itself is, I think it's $17,000 a semester. So it's,
It's just the cost.
Tech schools are expensive.
A little tongue in cheek. Do any of them have firefighter programs?
I thought that when Shawsheen was here.
I've recommended every retired firefighter to start a fire academy, open up seats.
Anything else? Motion?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve Minuteman Technical School for $40,000. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy? Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons? Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
David Tate?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 1300. Now, Article 4, authorize revolving accounts.
Thank you. So annual article that we're required to do, several years back, they changed the way revolving accounts were created and established each year, and the town created a bylaw that included certain revolving accounts. But the requirement is every year to set a spending limit in those revolving accounts. So you've all seen the chart which lists several revolving accounts that exist right now and what the spending limit is. The request for this year is the same as last year. We're not requesting to change any of the spending limits for any of them or add or change any revolving accounts. It's just sort of a housekeeping matter that's required. Important to say, this doesn't actually fund any of those. It just sets the maximum you can spend, or in some cases carry over also.
Frank? Oh, I'm
Subcommittee
sorry.
voted 2-0.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Questions?
Motion to
Rick?
Thanks. I'm just curious as to what cross-connection backflow prevention is.
So it's a great question. So when people connect to the sewer system, they're charged a fee based on that, and that money is set aside to be used on backflow, on sewer I&I. So that's called infiltration and inflow.
Nope.
Yep.
Yeah.
Inflow, inflow and infiltration.
Yeah.
Very good.
So that's a revolving account that captures those funds.
Gotcha, thanks.
Anything else? Anybody else?
Subcommittee?
Yeah.
Yep.
Motion to move?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to authorize 796.
No number. Oh, you're going to read all of the limits?
Nope. But there is a number.
I assume that number is just a total.
It's just the total of
It's just
all of
the total,
those.
but we don't have to authorize the total number.
I don't think so. I mean, I think you're just
To
approving.
authorize the revolving accounts.
Right.
Beautiful. Cheyenne?
Yes, on this one.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
Absolutely. I'm sorry.
Okay. Chris Delaney?
Yes.
Mike Hardy?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
David Tate?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 13-0-0.
Just a note, Cheyenne said he had to sign off, which means now we can vote by show of hands.
Beautiful.
There's a time saver.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, as a point of information, and these gentlemen can swear it away, we voted the total, but I believe the vote sets the cap by each revolving account. So just because you've got, the total doesn't determine actually completely what we voted for. We voted the cap on each account, okay?
Yes.
It comes up at town meeting.
We voted as per the document.
Yeah, but actually, we set the cap on every account. Thank you.
Thank you. Article 13,
So
Cable
this is-
Access Enterprise Fund.
Sorry. This is another annual article that's required. Some time ago, the state changed the regulations that you were required to set up an enterprise fund for your local cable access. What this allows us to do is to take that charge on your cable fee that's called PEG access, which stands for Public Educational and Governmental. That's what BCAT does for us. Most cities and towns have that. We aren't allowed to spend that money. We collect it and we pass through to BCAT, but what we're required to do is establish a number, a not-to-exceed number, which we get from BCAT. You know, we talk about what the revenues have been, and then we make sure we're a little bit above that, just in case we get more by any chance. But if this number is $550,000, which it has been for the last couple of years, if it were the case where we got less than $500,000, we got $475,000, that's all they would get. This doesn't end up costing the town anything. It's just a requirement for approving that enterprise fund.
Okay.
You're the treasurer.
Yeah, full disclosure, I'm the treasurer of BCAT.
Beautiful. Dave?
Subcommittee voted 2-0.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? Nope.
Move to approve?
Second.
All those in favor?
Oh,
Opposed?
wow, novel.
Awesome.
Saved at least a minute there.
I don't know who Guest is, but
You can vote, Brad? Can you vote?
I don't benefit from it personally, so
12-0-0.
I can abstain if that's,
He's allowed to vote.
Yeah.
Personal choice.
I don't think there's any conflict of interest, so.
No, I think, like Rob, I think votes for the
You did
library
get a new
budget.
set of golf clubs from BK.
Unless he's getting a kickback, of course.
All right. Article 3.1, Public Building Accessibility and Security. I believe this is the portion of the capital of the debt service, or
The free cash portion of the program.
but we talked about it.
We
and
talked, yes.
Put it off.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is this article is actually a raise, the funding source is raise and appropriate.
Yeah.
And so that's really the only distinction from the rest of the articles in the index of articles for funding from free cash under Article 3.
Yeah, so I was wrong.
We know, Frank.
So what this article would do is essentially, we've talked a lot about cybersecurity over the last several years. This is a physical security measure. So this would look at all of the buildings in the municipal campus here, 25 Center, 29 Center, 33, and 61, and look to move to what is now a key-based security, physical security system, to a fob-based system. So this is not new technology. This is something that really is a best practice in securing physical spaces in municipal and public buildings. Nothing is going to change as far as what the public can access, that they can access today during normal business hours, but doors that are external, certain external doors, some internal doors that are sort of secure or private spaces as they are now that need to be fobbed will be fobbed. And part of this too is access control as far as we are able to set up guidelines of who can get into which doors based on their fob access, based on their security access. This will actually complete all the town buildings that will be on this system now, or on this type of system. So 1 Great Meadow, 10 Great Meadow, Fire Station 2, Fire Headquarters, and the temporary police station are all on a building security system that requires a fob. The new police station will be on as well. And ultimately, once everything is online, all under one building access and management system for securing these doors. So I think that this really is a best practice that I think that would really enhance our physical security of these spaces as well as manage access into spaces where we need to manage access to.
Doug, just want to add that one thing that you were right that we did talk about this when we were here talking about the technology refresh lease. We had talked about this being raised and appropriate and putting it in the operating budget, and the concern was then you don't get to really vote on a specific project. So that's why we kept the funding source the same but pulled it out and added it to Article 3.
Right, that was capital improvements line item.
Yep.
Yes.
And it was 800,000. We amended it to 700,000 and put the 100,000 off for now because that's raised and appropriate.
Correct.
And it is a good way to begin to think about putting capital,
Yeah, and the idea
making
that-
raise and appropriate a percentage of our capital.
Correct. This is sort of the first year and sort of the additional diversification of funding sources to meet that entire capital plan, financing plan. So this is where we're starting.
Small step into building the capacity in the operating budget should things change with the amount of free cash we have or debt or any of that.
Curiosity question, is this the same systems used by the schools? So that some of the employees that need access to both carry one fob, not two?
I don't know exactly if this is the same access point as the school, if they're on the same sort of proprietary system. There aren't a whole lot of crossover as far as access goes, but we can find out for sure if they're
I'm
on.
mostly thinking of IT, that
Yeah.
those people clearly, and so do some police officers.
Yeah, SRO, IT, those.
I imagine there's a bunch of, few services where it would be convenient if they were consistently managed.
Yes.
But that might not, but the thing is, you might, if a person has two fobs, then he can program the fob for this level of access in that building, like the town hall, and a different level of access for the school building. Whereas if it's one fob, it has to be all the same for that person.
No. Five individually, there's lots.
We can manage it by door.
And door by door.
Yeah.
You know, very.
Drill it all the way
Okay,
down.
all right.
Very
good,
fine grained if
good.
necessary.
I've been wrong
But
twice.
we'll find out
tonight. Write that
for
down.
sure and try to do that if it's possible.
Okay, good.
I can't imagine a world where the school department's going to want anybody else programming anybody to have fobs to a school building. I wouldn't if I was that.
Pretty good bet.
Question. Mike?
Mr. Chair. I see like the second page, it shows 3 years, a total amount requested 100,000. Are those other years for placeholder projects? Can you?
Yes, yeah,
Explain to me.
I found that to be, that could be a little confusing. So that, the idea is that there's only one security, it's only going to be $100,000, it's only going to be once. The reason why that was initially on the capital sheet was that we're going to continue the sort of raise and appropriate funding source in future years, not necessarily for security.
Okay.
So the idea is we'll have another project next year for 100,000 or some number similar to that or something else.
Okay. Building out the framework.
Okay.
Roger, I'm sorry, Rick.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. When I was looking at the four quotes, there's a line item on there that says, under the services description, genetic premium SaaS reader for 1 year. Sounds like it's a software as a subscription type service that they're giving us for 1 year. So I guess my question is that, will that not have to be renewed in subsequent years?
Yes, the Genetech system, yes, there's a, within the quarterly, I expect it to be about $3,000 to $5,000 per year from the operating budget to keep these systems managed.
All four?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll expect to see that added to the operating budget?
Yeah, and I actually think that we will probably establish some efficiencies as part of this, as bringing all of our licenses that we have for other buildings under one license and having what I sort of refer to as, not the right term, like franchise managers of that underneath that one license. So I actually think that we will get some efficiencies of all the products we use right now, bringing them under one license.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that, when you say you expect it to be that much, the pricing for that isn't itemized in these quotes, so how are you making that assessment?
So as far as the bringing in under one license, working with a potential vendor that connects us to that proprietary software, that Genetech software, working with them, we had a call last week talking about how to best to consolidate these so that we can be more efficient, because right now, I think in some respects, we are not getting the strength of the system we are getting by having sort of the separate franchises, if you will. By bringing them all under one license, we're able to establish the efficiency there. So really just product research and working with the vendor.
Maybe, sorry, maybe I'm misunderstanding. I guess what I was trying to understand is if those maintenance fees are going to be ongoing and they're not itemized in these quotes, have separate prices against them, how are you assessing that, estimating that it's going to be $3,000 or $4,000?
I think based on the professional services quote within the cost and fee schedule here, for each of those, I think that's where I'm estimating the $3,000 or $4,000 based on across all the buildings. So the quarterly fee that's noted in each of the building quotes, and then extrapolating that out for each of them by the year.
Okay.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, thanks for adding the summary page on the warrant articles. That's really handy understanding where things are going in the future. Just a quick question. In the description, it says the funds are used, it makes it look like a study to identify things, but from the quotes, I think this is the actual work being done?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thanks.
David?
Subcommittee 2-0.
I'm sorry. I'm slipping a little. Anyone else?
Move to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Huh. Aye. All right. Minutes. So Meg will be getting the April 1st minutes to us very quickly. I sent out the March 25th minutes and got positive feedback. I think she did a great job. I don't think there was a single change. I didn't make an edit before I sent it to anybody. She did a good job. So,
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
thanks, guys. So, do we have a motion for the March 25th minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? So we got a David Tate abstain. I can do that. That's easy enough. And then the others we'll put off. I'll put that back on the agenda for next week. I left off reports off the agenda, so I think there is a brief one that I'll try to summarize, and we can't really have discussion, which is for the best. I think Chris got some more information. I'll summarize it to say that they added extra time. Bids were due, and then they added more time for bids, and I believe the new date was today.
Deadline's today. There was accommodations made for additional documentation. Once the bidding process concludes, there's going to be a meeting for next steps. Obviously, the start date and the schedule is going to be, we'll know that once the contract is awarded and the permits are obtained. So that's kind of where they are right now.
It's a little one-man show right now until we get them.
So,
I know you don't want questions, so if this is a request, can you send the plan around,
Can I send the plan?
the design? We're talking about middle school fields, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's out
Is there
there.
a document that describes what it is they're going to do? Sorry, that was a question.
I don't know. I would assume there is, but I could ask Jeremy Brooks if he can provide one, and I
I
can
would
send
like
an
to
email
see it.
out. Or you can email him direct, I suppose.
Would you ask him to send something to us?
Sure.
Just whatever the final plan
Thank you.
was.
there are no more votes needed from Ways and Means for that project at all.
No, they have their money. They went out to bid. They're going to,
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
All right.
No, it's just a thing that we have a person sitting on the committee. So
Yeah, that's
as long as we have an active committee with a representative on it.
And
keep an eye.
on the high school, did you hear anything on the statement of interest?
It has to go, it was approved by the building committee, it has to be approved by the select board and the school committee, which I assume they are all on the building committee, so I assume they approved it. I have not heard.
It'll go very soon, though.
Yeah.
Bill needs to be signed, signed off on it, so it's what I understand.
We're close.
Right.
All right.
just need another one.
All right.
Screen.
Well, this is one of our better. Motion to adjourn?
Yeah, all in favor? Yeah, good.
Now, this is one of our better meetings.